Left here.
Yes, sir.
Ready and all right. Good evening and welcome to the February 3rd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before we get started, just a couple of things. Cell phones, electronic devices, please silence them. If you're here to speak on an application, and we encourage you to do so, we just ask that you take the podium and give your name for the record keeper. And that's it. Then remember, if you're doing a presentation or you want to point to something, we're being filmed by FCTV, so you've got to take the microphone with you so that people at home can hear it, and we've got a good recording of it. Okay, first up tonight is a request to continue the hearing under notice of intent. And that's the Woods Hole Steamship Authority, care of William Cludier, 29 Lubscombe Ave, and 33 and 36 Railroad Ave, and Railroad Avenue. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant would like a continuance until February 17th.
So moved.
Second. Oop, no, I can't second it.
No.
Second.
So
Second.
that was Maury, and,
Mary.
well, I think I heard Kristen.
I seconded.
You did. So we got a motion by Maury, a second by,
Call it right
Kristen.
out, Kristen. Hi, Kristen.
Any other comments, questions from the commission? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for determination of applicability. This is the lesser of the two applications. What you want to hear on these is a negative determination. It means you can go along with your project. And first up is Nancy and Cynthia Henry, 130 Mill Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump and remove the existing cesspool, install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The staff recommendation is a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Maury, motion by Maury, second by Mary. Comments and questions from the commission? Comments and questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Next up is Matthew Costa, 176 BB Acres Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise the existing house, to elevate the first floor, and to construct and maintain an addition, new deck, porch, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the staff is recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Maury, Mary again. Any other comments or questions from the board? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Next up is George Crockett, 29 Charles River Road, Walkway, Mass, for permission to install an 8-inch ductile water main in Charles River between 29 and 35 Charles River Road, and a 1-inch water service to number 29 Charles River Road. Jen?
Staff's recommending a -2 under the bylaw, a -3 under the state with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
I got Courtney moved it with Mike on the second.
Fair enough.
Okay. Comments, questions from the commission or the board? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. And first up, we have Nino and Grace Federico, 157 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE, the existing house, and construct a 4-bedroom, single-family house with a deck, front landing, bulkhead, relocate shed, install native plantings, paved driveway, utilities, existing stairs and coastal bank to be rebuilt, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll save any of my comments till after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening. My name is Ken Drybogle. I'm with Jack Colley's office. Mr. Colley has been delayed at the Sandwich Conservation Commission. I'm requesting that the matter be tabled until he can get here.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to table 157 Shorewood Drive. We have, your motion?
A motion, second that.
I second it.
And Maury second. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved. So we'll table this. Okay, next up is John and Jillian Hayes, 39 Point Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a pool with the stone steps, spa, remove a portion of the driveway, install native vegetation, natural vegetated coastal bank to be maintained and restored, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until February 17th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Courtney and a second by Betsy. Comments, questions from the commission? Comments, questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions unanimous, so moved.
Was that the 17th?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Lawrence Broberg, 302 Edgewater Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to pump and remove the existing cesspools, remove natural vegetated tree and shrub buffer, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, native vegetation replacement, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Thank you.
You all set, Jen?
I'm fine, Wayne.
Okay. Good evening, Wayne.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I want to thank the board for giving me a little bit of leeway on an issue that has a DEP report. You will get them in the future, believe me.
Thank you.
Mass DEP has issued a file number on this, SC 254176. This is a project that started as an IDA, and it was suggested that we go to a notice of intent. It's a Title V upgrade, and Steve Doyle has been the active engineer on the project as far as citing the Title V system. It's been moved a number of times. It was suggested to be moved south, so where you're seeing it now is the suggested location. We also sought a waiver and moved the septic system as close to the property line as possible. We had to get another waiver for that one. It is as far from the resource areas as possible. And by suggestion and site meeting with Mark Kasperzik, we have come up with a mitigation plan for the area to be removed. Unlike a project that I showed you last month that was an RDA that did not remove much vegetation, this one removes quite a bit. I believe it's 752 square feet, and it straddles a driveway. So we have 789 square feet of mitigation area here. We saved as many trees as possible. The thought process of moving this to the south and to the road saved trees. There's either one or two less trees removed, and there's a possibility that there's a black oak, 12-inch black oak, that might not need to be removed. So we're asking for leeway on that. There's a 9-inch twin oak, and there's a pitch pine that needs to be removed. Mark has also informed us to keep the limit of work line and the sedimentation fence tight to the project for the excavation contractor to certainly watch. The driveway will be removed and then replaced. Septic system is as you see it here on the plan. And since there's 3 trees to be removed, Mark has also sought to get 3 trees replanted on the site. They're shown on this plan and in color, so you can see the list of plants that are here. It is a very typical system on a very small lot with numerous resource areas. So with that, I ask any questions or respond to any questions you may have.
Thanks, Wayne. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Wayne, the only request that Mark and I discussed this afternoon is switching out the inkberry and the blueberry. Okay, so we'll just have you pick another plant other than those. And you're good.
Okay, you don't want inkberry or blueberry?
Correct.
And so we...
Replace it with something else, bayberry, beach plum, anything that'll stand salt spray.
All right, Court.
Which oak are you trying to save? I'm looking at your,
By the table.
Say again? I'm sorry.
which oak are you trying to save?
At the very bottom, you'll see of the green area near the driveway,
Okay, and it says 12-inch oak?
12-inch oak to remove. That oak might be able to be salvaged. I think a lot of its roots are going to be removed in the process because of the overdig. The overdig is about 3 feet on these septic systems, and that's
And-
exactly where the fence is going.
Black oaks have been hit pretty hard in this area.
Right.
So, did you do an assessment of its health? In other words, is it?
It's in good health, yeah. I didn't do an assessment of it, but I can tell from the look of it, it doesn't share the same problems as the other.
I mean, it doesn't have the, whatever it is, the
Gall wasp.
African gall wasp or?
Yeah, no.
That's
No, it's
fine.
fine.
That's one of the things I'm
Yeah,
saying.
try and
Makes no
save it.
sense.
That's one of the trade-off trees, actually. It was going to be saved before, and then now it's going, and some other trees north of this are being saved as an exchange.
Yeah, I mean,
All set, Court?
Yep.
Kristen?
Yeah, I have nothing to say.
Maureen?
I just think that the oak could probably be saved. I've seen tighter systems put in. It all depends on the soils, and I don't have a soil log to see if it's, real sandy, then you might have cave-ins, but if it's a lot of clay, you should be fine. I would make every effort, because if you see where it's right on the edge. So I'd like to see it saved, maybe put a fence up around it and see what they'll do.
Yes, okay, that's what we ordinarily do. So when we redo this plan, according to what we just agreed with here with the English and Blueberry Exchange, I'll make a note to protect that tree, and we'll
Yeah,
circle
see what
it
can
with
happen.
fence.
Thank you.
All set, Maureen?
All set, thank you.
Mike?
The proposed cupola, the proposed cupola with the, I guess it's the south end of the house,
Yes, there's 2 of them.
that's directly under an existing neighbor's tree. Gonna be okay?
That tree, Mark and I actually talked about that. So I tried to shift it around. You saw where the stakes are that I left.
I did.
And we can shift it out further, if you'd like, and closer to the house and away from that tree. That one, you're talking about that one tupelo that's
Yeah, you're,
really near that. Sure.
you stand at that stake and look up, you're looking at tree, not sky. So
Yeah.
I assume sooner or later they wouldn't like each other.
We'll revise the plan accordingly.
You do have I noticed the note takes care of it, but you do have the water line running right through the leaching field.
You have to sleeve it.
The note says if it's within 10 feet, you sleeve it, so I suppose you're closer than 10 feet, but
You can sleep on your own.
you can sleeve.
Yeah, you can sleeve. We have another one that was being allowed to be sleeved right on the money. So
I'm done.
Betsy?
Okay, my only comments are about the trees also. One is, we can put in as a condition that, where the trees are gonna go after,
Sure.
can be determined in the field. And the other, Wayne, is just in general, what our requirements are, what you're doing is a tree-for-tree replacement, but we say it's tree for tree, anywhere from tree for tree to cal per inch to cal per inch. This is 32 cal per inches. So, that's even more incentive to save that 12-inch oak.
Okay,
And-
yeah, and reduce the number of trees, sure.
Yeah, and, you know, if we need another tree, if something catastrophic happens to that oak, then we're gonna have to have 1 or 2 more trees put in.
Okay, I understand, yeah, it was 1 for 1, I understand what you're saying. So we'll try to save that tree, we'll put a fence around it, and do you want us to stay with the 3 trees, or do you want us to?
Yep.
Okay.
That's, I mean, Mark agreed with it, everybody down here, unless the remaining 2 questioners or commissioners are gonna be hard-nosed about it, they might be.
You all set, Betsy?
Yeah.
Okay. Mary?
Just a couple things with the plan, actually. You have the BVD delineated, but maybe it's here, but I wasn't able to find the A and B zones for the BVW on the plan. And also, I don't know, maybe it's overkill in this case, but we normally require the data sheets for the BVW.
Right, we discussed that at the
Okay.
beginning, yeah, off the record we did, on the
Okay.
record now, sure.
And,
Everybody who doesn't have it tonight feels particularly threatened by the email.
Yes,
Jen
right.
sent out.
right,
I
so
apologize
I'll
again,
have nothing
yes.
to talk about at the hearings if everybody conforms to them. Also, let's see, I didn't understand the reference to the one-to-one mitigation. What,
The one-to-one area mitigation or the one-to-one tree mitigation?
No, the mitigation area.
it's the area, new mitigation planting shall offset the development area and/or habitat loss shall be created on a one-to-one basis. I didn't understand anything about the area aspects of the mitigation.
Mark was concerned that there's a lot of vegetation on this property. I submitted another one up the road from this last time, and it came through as an RDA. There was not much vegetation coming under there, so Mark said this should go through as an RDA. However, this one has so much vegetation being removed, we want to see proper mitigation, and I think it should come under a notice of intent. So when we talked about it, because of the small nature of the lot, because of the fact that we're keeping it tight in through there, and we're calculating the amount of area that's coming out, instead of the A-B zone where there was a 2-for-1, 3-for-1,
Right.
we can't do that on this site, it's just too tiny. So he said, and because it's a Title V upgrade, which is an upgrade, an enormous conservation upgrade in its own right,
Right.
that this would go as a one-to-one area.
Okay.
So the area, and I apologize for this, down below to the left, pointing to it in red, it says, area north of the disturbed area is 561 square feet. Below that is total area south of the paved area is 202 square feet. The total is 763 square feet. And what we did is we assembled that to match the area of the mitigation area, which you could see just above the mitigation area in green, 799 square feet.
Okay.
Basically a one-to-one match for area disturbed for new area mitigated. And the plants were followed through at a 3-foot per on-center to calculate how many plants there were.
That's fine. It would be helpful if you would, there could be just a statement explaining. I don't mean to resubmit, but for future purposes, when something like that is in the narrative, if the reason for it could be.
Okay. I should have put a table, I could have put a table there.
Yes, and we
but
usually.
The plan is kind of confusing.
We usually do have tables provided for the mitigation calculations, either on the plan or in the narrative, or both. The only other thing I noticed, I don't know that this is a requirement of ours, but it struck me that there are no lot coverage figures on the plan, and we pretty much always, the plans always have that coverage. It's not a conservation
Issue, it's a
thing.
zoning issue,
Yeah,
is basically what it is.
And
yes.
they're just
always there.
It's always the
So I would not, I don't think that's one of our requirements, but I'm not certain.
Well,
Is
in
it,
this
Jen?
case, it doesn't matter
He's
because
not
there's
adding
no
anything.
change,
Well,
he's
yeah,
not
that's-
adding or
that's right.
subtracting.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Yeah, if you
But
add
just
structure to it.
when you come before us next time, if you have something, we'd like to see that.
Okay, yeah, there's usually a table that the surveyors put up there, and they have the zoning information, plus the lot coverage and all that.
We'll make a finding.
Yeah, okay.
You all set, Mary?
Yes, I'm all set,
Jamie.
thank you.
I'm good.
You good? Any other comments? Betsy?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment for all those of you who went and found the two different plans that we got, that I really appreciate the fact that you worked with Mark and you actually put the mitigation between the house and the pond.
Yes,
And,
yeah,
it
that
was-
made common sense.
yes, and this is an unusual compensation, because often when people have septic systems, it's areas where there isn't much vegetation and there's no mitigation. And so I appreciate staff's effort to work with you and come up with an equitable situation.
And I in return, it worked out well.
Courtney, do you have something else? I see your hand up.
No, Jen just stated the finding thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second,
We have a motion by Maureen, second by Courtney. Close the hearing, take it under advisement. Any other comments or questions from the commission?
Is there a need for a new plan on this?
That was what I was going to say.
You're gonna have to submit a new plan, Wayne. You can either submit a new plan right away, or it will be a requirement in your
That's right,
order.
yes.
So, switch out the plans, make an effort to save the oak, move the tupelo.
I have all the notes.
Okay, have that, get the plan into me as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay? It'll be a condition in the permit, but
Is there a chance that this might be voted on next meeting?
If you get the
Possibly.
If you get the plan in.
possibly.
Very good.
Okay, anything else?
I'm happy to close, I just wanted to make that point. That's all.
Okay. We got a motion. Any comments, questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Have a good night. Okay, next up is Lawrence Rome, 128 Little Neck Bars Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a utility shed for furnace heating equipment, install a generator on a raised slab, native mitigation plantings, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, I will save any of my comments until after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening, Tom.
For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this plan for Lawrence Rome at 128 Little Neck Bars Road. You'll note in the narrative that this plan shows kind of shaded in a septic upgrade, which was approved by RDA in 2011. It's not been installed yet. It's still on this plan. It's something that must be done, and there are some notes for moving the driveway and some tree work that goes along with the septic system. The proposal that we have now is to Mr. Rowe wants to install his, put in a new heating system outside of the house for various reasons. So we're proposing this existing house in West Falmouth Harbor. This is this might be called the South Basin, or even further south, south of the Chapel Bridge. This area is tidal. It's in a flood zone, VE elevation 18, up to this line here. And the Falmouth velocity zone goes another 25 feet landward. And landward of that is flood zone AE elevation 18. existing house, which was built in the 50s, some lawn on the marsh side. There's a little shed and a greenhouse on the inland side of the lot in this location. There is isolated wetland here, and also an isolated wetland on the south side of Little Neck Bars Road. The A zones of the salt marsh and the wetlands are shown on that, highlighted in orange. The B zones cover most of the property, except for the small area where the septic system is going, as approved in 2011. So as I was saying, he wants to install the heating system for his house in a separate structure outside of his house. For, as I said, for various reasons, there'll be insulated tubing running underground. I believe this will be fired. It's with the same oil, an oil tank inside the house. It'll just serve a furnace on the outside. I would imagine it has to be an insulated enclosure that it's going to be in. That right here next to the garage, in that area that's in the Falmouth velocity zone. He would also want to install an emergency generator with a propane tank, 500-gallon propane tank, and that we've put in. There's a stand of cedar trees. There's cedars with a lot of English ivy growing all over them, limbed way up either naturally or however. So there's room in there to put a generator on a little slab, and there's one dead pine tree that we can remove to create access to get in there with a little mini to put the propane tank. Put the propane tank, bury it underground, and then just plant grass, but I suppose.
Tom?
Yes.
Just a second. Sorry to interrupt you. You here for the steamship? You know it's been continued?
Well, I thought we were gonna meet today. I know I talked to Janet.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be right back. Continue. Mr. Cloutier.
February 17th. Sorry about that, Tom. I just didn't want them guys to hang around for.
So anyway, we're putting in a propane-fired generator and a propane tank in that location, so we can tie into the electrical service to the house. Small amount. The heating utility shed is about 25 square feet. The generator is about 20 square feet. The shed is in the A zone and the generator is in the B zone. Came up with about 150 square feet of mitigation planting required. I'm not counting the tank, that'll be underground. I'll comment on, or I'll reply to Mark's comments that he just sent out today. The coastal bank, we hadn't shown it. I don't know if that was a comment from the RDA hearing. The coastal bank that's man-made, all along this side. We can easily, if you want a plan with that labeled, we can label that. That's fine. We can put that label on if that's something you're going to want to do. The salt marsh line is incorrect. It's actually the way that we had it shown on the previous plan, and I think what Mark didn't realize that actually some of the salt marsh, some of the area had been allowed to grow back in. So where he thought that those stakes should be 15 feet or so into the lawn, actually there was no lawn there because that area had grown in, which I think was one of the requirements from the RDA in 2011. But I think he is correct that as things change somewhat, it looks as though that salt marsh is probably about 4 feet further landward than what we have our stakes in there now. And we realize, I think as he has his comments in there, that he and I can determine where the salt marsh line is and mark that, and it would be allowed to grow back in and no longer be mowed and I guess kept free of invasive plants that might try to take over. And the mitigation planting that we have is, we did show it down in the marsh. I've just kind of sketched, colored it in quickly on this plan. We'll move that landward of the salt marsh line, as I've shown there. So this 150 square feet, which I had down in this location.
Okay.
Be moved up to there, near where there's a spruce tree growing up in there, but it'll be in lawn and take over lawn area. Actually, one thing I want to make clear on his comment number 1 about the coastal bank, this actually is not in the DCPC. The Little Neck Bars Road is the boundary of the DCPC, just as a point for the record. And of course, he notes that the patio is not permitted. It wasn't permitted in the RDA either, and was allowed to remain at that time. So we'll hope he can allow that to remain now also. There's other comments about the conditions from the RDA, and those I think will be taken care of. When the septic system is put in, all of the RDA conditions will be complied with, plus any conditions that you put on. We hope we approve this. Let's see if, I'll take questions.
Jen?
Yes, thank you we're gonna do a revised plan on that. Move the mitigation plantings. I don't agree with the statement, Tom, that the board allowed the patio to remain. It was written multiple times in the findings and the staff report that it was an unpermitted patio. The staff did not like it there. Your client chose not to address it and came back before this board with the patio here. So unless evidence can be presented, which it wasn't presented in the RDA, it now will need to be addressed. Other than that, when do you think you'll be able to go back out and do the edge of that wetland?
Whenever, if Mark wants to meet me, or you or
Okay.
Mark wants to meet me, whenever that's works.
Okay, and just, Mr. Chairman, we'll add the RDA to the record on this one. Okay.
Jamie?
So, Jen, to your point, would we be, we're gonna deal with the patio?
I think the board should address it. Apparently, it wasn't addressed in 2011. I assume they're going to argue that we never issued an enforcement order. The applicant was well aware of this board and the staff's position at the time that the patio was unpermitted. So now we will address it.
Could I just briefly respond? I was only reading the findings in the RDA. Where
Yeah, I was
it didn't
reading
say
those,
it had to
too.
be removed, so that's all I was saying there. If we could, I think it'd be better for everybody, better for the environment, I should say, if it were to be allowed to remain and put in it's about 800 and some square feet of mitigation planting. There would be better environmental protection if we could do that. For, small, it's not a structure, it's flagstone.
But unfortunately, Tom, it does move closer than the present primary structure. And in the regulations, if, let's say, your client sold this property and a new owner came and wanted to raise and rebuild, the board would allow them to build on that paver patio.
I don't think so,
So-
because it's not a structure.
I don't want to have the discussion of structure on an agenda this large, okay? So, we're going to address the patio. The board can decide whether they'll allow it to remain and accept the mitigation, or if they'll require it to be removed. You put structures on gravel. Gravel driveways aren't structures, are they, Tom?
They're not, but I know
Yes.
you don't allow structures to move closer to a wetland resource area. It's
No.
not a structure, and in the future, somebody will not be able to build structure closer.
Jen, if I may, Kevin Clower for the record. I'm an attorney with Ahmet Law Firm here in Falmouth. One possibility would even be to have a condition ongoing in the order of conditions that would not be considered a structure for purposes of, I mean, that would establish it in the record pretty clearly. Would address, I think, your concern. So that would be one possibility in order to maintain the patio, have the mitigation, which is a net benefit to the area, and address staff's concern. So that's one possibility to
Yeah,
consider.
and the board can decide what they want to do about it. Absolutely.
No, said Jim? Mary?
For the generator, the location, it would be possible to move it away from this A zone here into, I'm just curious really as to why that particular location was selected. Is it because it can sit in there and be nicely concealed, or?
Basically, yes.
Okay, that's the answer to the question. Thank you.
Betsy?
Well, since you brought that one up, I'm gonna go back to that, and I'm gonna rely on Maury. If you dug a tank that close to all those cedars, is that gonna affect the roots of those cedars? I mean, I didn't see why you couldn't put everything on the other side of the
Right.
septic system in the lawn, and if you don't want people to see it, you can put bushes around it. I mean, it's really kind of tucked tightly
Yeah.
into there with a lot of trees right next to
I think in
where you're
that
gonna be
location,
digging something.
the closest tree is the dead pine tree. I think that it could go in there without,
For the propane tank,
For the, not for the generator.
right, but they're gonna excavate,
Yes,
Well-
right.
Okay, well, we can, we'll see what other people, comments. I want to go back to the patio. When was the patio put in?
it was, I think in the RDA's,
It was not in the 2005 area, it was in the 2009 area.
So
So it's really,
Kevin has a picture from 2007, where so it's between,
I took this off of Google Earth today,
Okay.
and this just reflects this.
All right, we just looked at the,
Yeah, I just pulled it up this evening when we found out about this.
Well, that's all right. Between 2005 and 2009 is fine for me. Is it?
7, that is what he just handed me.
Right, that's between 2005 and 2009. Is this an A or a B zone?
A.
And
To a
was
salt
there
marsh.
prior, so we allow structures, excuse me, I didn't mean the word structure.
Thank you.
We allow landscape features in the A zone, but only if there was previously landscape features. If they're landscape features and you want to rearrange them, then you can do that. But this is the A zone to the salt marsh, right?
Yes.
Within 100 feet of the salt marsh?
it is, I think, that's true, but I think you also weigh that against
Uh,
triple.
I know how to weigh stuff, I'm just getting the facts down.
Yes, that's correct.
And my
Kevin, what
next,
year is this, 2000?
That was 2007.
Thank you.
so you have your stakes marked as wet. Are those salt marsh stakes or are those BBW stakes?
It's marsh. It's hard to tell right there, because it's been mowed, but it's salt marsh.
And is there any BBW there?
Again, it's been mowed, it's hard.
Hard to
It's
tell.
lawn, it's hard to tell.
Okay. That's all, those are the only questions I have.
Thanks, Betsy. Mike?
The tank, how deep is that excavation?
It's,
I don't know how many gallons it is.
well, it's cylindrical,
I need to see how many gallons in the narrative.
it's a
Five.
3-foot diameter,
3-foot diameter?
so it'll be about 5 feet down. You know, it's a slab underneath it, and 3 feet of tank, or 4.5 feet down, and then some loam on top of it.
Because they're gonna anchor it.
and the ground surface is about elevation 7.
Yeah, actually, you bring that up, and I can tell you one reason why. One time we had it over closer to the shed, and I was worried about the groundwater. And this is the highest point of the land, or nearly the highest point of the land, so it wouldn't be affecting the groundwater at this point.
And it would be at other locations.
In the lower lawn areas, it would be. That's
Other questions have been answered.
Lori?
Jen, I'm gonna, remember 76 Old Dock Road, we did soil tests for hydrology? I think that needs to be done here. It appears that that whole lower area has been mowed, and I believe it was probably all BVW. So if we do soil tests out there and groundwater, we'll know, am I correct, Jen? I'm just referencing 76 Old Dock. Remember out in the back where it was lawn, and as soon as you and Mark went out and you did some testing, I think it was Barbara Frapier actually was the engineer on it, and it was the lawn that looked beautiful, and then the BVW, it actually came up almost 90 feet that was originally, you know.
Yeah, we did it based on hydric soils.
Yeah, so I think we need to do that here.
I think that's what Tom said, that him and Mark are gonna go back out and look at the soils
Yeah, and it's gonna
and
make.
adjust that line.
Okay, and that's how they're gonna do it?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no other way to do it
Okay.
other than just dig a bunch of, test holes and see what the soils come back as.
Because we
Right,
might
Tom?
get a lot of, we might get a lot of, not mitigation planting, but a lot of vegetation coming back. Because, marsh will come back, and especially if we make you put posts in, to delineate it, so that there is no more mowing, to let it come back. So that was a concern. And I'm gonna voice my opinion on the patio. I think it was non-permitted, and I just know that when we're all gone and somebody else, it'll end up being the front of wherever they're gonna start building new structures or over it or whatever, because they'll say it's impervious. I'm just not comfortable with allowing an unpermittable patio, and it's quite large. And you say you're gonna, put in the RDA for the septic, it says 4 cedars to be planted. Could you tell me which ones they are, Tom? Because I don't see them separated out, like, proposed on the plan, and I might be missing it. Where are they?
I can't. Frankly, I'd have to look back in our files and see what was talked about in there.
Right, because it's hard to tell, I mean, I'm assuming all the trees shown on the plan are existing, and the 4 that you're gonna replant somewhere with the septic upgrade. And one of the things that I noticed that was kind of interesting, that there's a plant in the SAS, and you're going to, it says, you're gonna carefully move it and relocate it. And my question is, why can't you carefully move that beautiful cedar tree that you're gonna cut down?
Which cedar tree?
The big one that's.
Oh, for the septic system?
Mhm. Why that can't be spaded, and instead of the 4 small insignificant cedars that you're probably gonna give us, to take that beautiful mature one and save it?
I wasn't here to discuss that RDA, but with the equipment people have, it probably could be moved.
Okay. I think that would be a much better trade-off to have, I mean, it's huge, it's one of the nicest ones on the lot. And the one that you're talking about to limb up for the driveway, that's kind of a squat, fat one that, once you limb it up, it's gonna have nothing on it. So, I'm not looking at that one being for much for habitat after you limb it up.
Yeah.
And, let's see what else. I would like to see the tanks moved, but under you explaining the groundwater. I never saw the perk test for the septic, so I don't know where groundwater is. But obviously, if you're going down 5 feet, this looks like it's a mounded system for the septic. And that's that's a little bit, so I don't know if this tank's gonna be in groundwater.
I don't think the propane tank will be near elevation 7. And
Okay.
Going down.
You're confident, and if you hit groundwater, you have dewatering? Okay.
Want to see the perk test?
Did I make it? Yeah. And also, you have no size or species of trees on the plan, which we need. You just show existing trees, and you show 3 different legends for them, but we need the species, because it's substantial. And I know Little Neck Bars Road is a dividing line for the DCPC, but it's still a critical area, and it is within, you have two wetlands on both sides. That's all, thank you.
Maury, did you wanna know
Yeah, I'll
where
look at
groundwater was encountered?
Yes, where was it?
54 inches.
How many?
54 inches.
Groundwater encountered at 54 inches below grade approximately 1 hour after high tide.
Oh, and I just want one more question, Tom, I'm sorry. How much fill are you bringing in for that mounded system?
Well, as I said, I don't know, I mean, this was approved 4 years ago, and I don't have all the notes from that.
It would be in the existing
Well, I
road.
think we are gonna put the whole RDA in, right?
Yeah.
And the Board of Health permit and all that, okay. And this was an extension for the Board of Health because of the. you
Permit
told me.
Extension
Yeah,
Act.
Permit Extension Act. Okay. And you're not gonna do any denitrifying?
Not proposed.
Well, it's kind of a shame they have an opportunity right now. And with all the remediation that they're doing in the West Falmouth area, it would be nice to see maybe them to at least look at it and address, they might change their mind.
I mean, I think the issue here is that, we're really not here to address the septic system, because that septic system was brought before the board and approved in 2011. And while that work's being done, it's being done under the permit, which is still in good standing. So I understand that the
Yeah.
RDA's been entered into the record, but not reopened. It's that septic system is being installed pursuant to that permit.
All right, you're an attorney, so you can maybe answer this for me, because this was the next question I had. This
Yes,
property, is
I-
it owned by the Storms, or is it owned by Mr. Rome?
It's owned by the Storms.
And that's who the permit was pulled by?
Yes.
Okay, so then, because I didn't know if a permit that somebody else had is transferable.
The Storms the Romes have entered into an agreement to purchase the property. Part of that is whether or not we can do what we need to do for Mr. Rome.
Okay, thank you.
Kristen?
The utility shed, is that within the flood zone, or is that, no, it's in the VE zone, okay.
The utility shed is actually in the Falmouth Velocity Zone.
It's in the, okay. And the reason to have it there rather than out of flood?
It had to be close to the building for the pipes running back and forth.
I just had a question about the tank, propane. Is there heat generated when you, is it?
From the generator?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's kind of close to Cedars. Seems like it
Well,
would be
it's not, I mean, it's not a lot of
dangerous.
heat, it's, like a small car.
Okay.
The heat you get out of a small car running.
So there's not
There is
a
exhaust.
concern about,
Yeah.
It has to be
Fire.
maintained 5 foot away from the regulator, so
Okay.
it's plenty, they've got plenty of
there's
room there.
plenty. And then just to weigh in on the patio, to me, it looks like an impervious surface that the owner had previously done things and been through the board and knew, it seems to me, that was needed to be permitted. So, I don't feel I feel it's something they should ask for. And mitigating after the fact just doesn't feel right to me. That's all for me.
I'll say Kristen?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Courtney?
Couple of things on the patio, it seems like we have like 3 options. One is obviously ask them to remove it, the second is to allow it with mitigation. And the third option perhaps is to ask them to reduce its size and mitigate for whatever it finished. And the patio, by looking at this, is like 20 by 10 or 20 by 8, that's a big area. And so one possible solution is to reduce its size, but also mitigate for it. But that's for the board to decide on. The other issue is this utility shed. What's the elevation there? Is it about 5.5 feet, 6 feet?
About 5.5,
And you're right in the Falmouth V zone.
yes.
And you're gonna put utilities out there, furnaces and things like that.
The furnace,
You know, and I realize the house itself doesn't conform to current, velocities and flood elevate things where the first floor slab is elevated. And under those rules, any utilities would have to be elevated above the flood level.
I think,
And
Mr. Howard-
so, I mean, in a sense, and I just want to finish, it's really not maybe central to this whole thing as to whether it's allowable or not, and I'm looking at it from a practical standpoint, as someone who was in the construction business for 30 years and did a lot of building in these kinds of areas. And I'm thinking to myself, why would I want to put my furnace out in the flood zone and then have a flood come along and I can't use it? So I keep thinking to myself, why aren't they looking at an alternative for a furnace? They're not that big, could they put it in their attic or whatever? And that's just sort of like I'm wondering out loud. And that doesn't mean that this is not permittable if we decide we want to do it. It's just, I'm curious, it doesn't sound very practical.
If I can address that, Mr. Byrd, due to certain medical needs of Mr. Rome's, he can't have the
What, I'm
furnace.
sorry.
Due to certain medical needs of Mr. Rome's, he can't have the furnace in the house. His existing house, he had to remove it similarly. So the attic really wasn't an option. Because that was the first question I asked as well, what about something like this? And it really wasn't an option. It is permissible under the building code. I did meet with Eladio Gore to discuss this, and he said that the mechanicals would not need to be elevated above the flood zone unless we were triggering substantial compliance. And similarly, because of the size of this, being under 200 square feet, it's not an addition that would count towards that triggering.
Okay, I mean, I've asked the question, and I'm satisfied with your answer. I just raised the issue out of curiosity. We got a long meeting, so we'll move on.
Could I add one more point about the patio and your fear of it being expanded onto? The house already is non-conforming for zoning. It's only 40, the steps there are only 42 feet from the 4-foot contour. Even though they might try to get through you saying that patio is a structure, they'd actually have to go to the Board of Appeals to build anything closer. And I know that Zari and the board would not allow a paver patio to be used as an existing structure to warrant building further into the zoning setback line. So I think you have...
To echo Tom's comment, I know the board's position has generally been that a deck is considered a structure, however, a patio is not. And that's been, well, that's the zoning board's stance, and that's been fairly uniform as long as I've known it. So in order to increase that, that's a variance going towards the water if they were to try to create a structure there, and that would be a self-imposed hardship that the board would never allow.
Well, this isn't the zoning board, and this is the conservation.
Oh, I
Commission.
understand.
Well, wait, let me finish, please. This is the conservation commission, and this is an unpermitted structure. Excuse me, an unpermitted landscape feature. And we do, if people come before us and they haven't permitted something, and it's permittable, and you can add mitigation, that's one story. That's not what the story is here. And I think there's several of us who share that concern.
I certainly wasn't arguing otherwise, just trying to address the concern.
Courtney, you had something else?
Yeah, just to follow on with Betsy. In the time I've been on this board, we've gone around and around on this issue, and we have dealt with similar situations in the past where we have made a finding in the orders and conditions, and we have voted to say that in that kind of landscape feature cannot become part of the structure at any point in the future. So there is a way to address it if we choose to go that way.
Staff would recommend against that.
Jamie, you have something else? Did you have something?
Well, I just want to, so will this become a separate issue? Is it tied to this? Is that part of the dilemma?
What was that, Jamie?
It's tied to
It
this
is tied to it
notice.
now.
Yeah,
No, I mean figuratively speaking with what we're being asked to allow.
yeah.
Yes,
It's
we're
it's
addressing.
part of what they put in front of us,
Okay.
and it's part of what we're addressing, and they're gonna have to come back anyway, because they have to redo the wetland line, and so they can discuss ideas that might have come out of this.
I'm here to continuance, Tom.
Sounded like it.
I picked up on it.
Tom, I'll give you the last slot available on the February 17th, if you guys can get me a plan by next week. Is that gonna be possible? I know you gotta work with Mark's schedule, and that's always difficult.
And we're supposed to get 2 days of snow
When?
Friday.
coming up,
Friday is
through
gonna
Friday.
snow.
Friday and Saturday,
Oh,
or
Wednesday,
Thursday and
Saturday?
Friday.
Thursday and Friday, Thursday night into Friday.
It went from 1 inch to 5 inches in an hour.
I'm going skiing.
If I read it all,
He wants to go back to rain easy enough.
It's either the 17th or March 2nd, because everybody else after this is going to
we'll try
March.
for the 17th.
Try for the 17th if we can't make it work. You know, we won't hold you to like the 3 continuances. I mean, delineating a salt marsh and snow is gonna be tough, but take a look at the patio issue for me, and I appreciate the changes you attempted to make in the plan already, Tom, okay? So we'll do it to the 17th, and if we have to go further at that point, we'll address it then.
At the request of the applicant, is that what you want me to do?
Yep.
Make a motion to continue this to February 17th.
Second.
Okay, motion by Betsy, and a second by Mike. Any other comments or questions from the commission? None. Comments or questions from the public? Okay.
Jeff Oppenheim, represent Brian and Mary Ann Storm for the owners of this property, and not surprisingly, they wanted me to come and speak in favor of the application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
That was refreshingly short.
Could you give me your last name, sir? I'm sorry.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. All right, our table, is that? No. Jack is not here
Yeah,
yet?
Jack's not here yet.
No, okay. Move on to the next one. Compassionate Care ALS Inc., 17 Chase Road, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to remove the 3 existing buildings, construct a 2-bedroom cottage with a patio, 6-bedroom and 7-bedroom house with additions, abandon 2 leach pits, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, connect two buildings, walkways, utilities, parking, remove native trees, install native trees, mitigation, shrub plantings, memorial pathway, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will hold any of my questions or comments until after Mr. Bunker's presentation.
And I have to recuse
Any more of
So Mari's recusing herself. Put that, Susan.
What is this? Oh,
Good evening again, Tom.
Yeah, good evening. Tom Bunker with BSS Design. At first, we'll have to correct the advertisement. I think it would come to a surprise that we're removing all 3 buildings, we're only doing 1 building.
That's what
I don't think I put that in the narrative, but
one building.
we're at 17 Chase Road, Compassionate Care ALS. This property has been used for decades as a bed and breakfast. Had 17 bedrooms total in 3 buildings. It fronts on Chase Road. It's fairly level up where all the buildings are. The land slopes back to a wetland that's in the back of the property, a bordering vegetated wetland. Swamp back there is flagged by Jack Vaquero. This area, so far removed from West Falmouth Harbor and Buzzards Bay, actually is in the flood zone. Must come over the bike path or something. Being in the flood zone, we have this blue line on here, the edge of the flood zone. The AE zone, elevation 15 and X. The ground slopes greater than 10 to 1, but it's less than 4 to 1. And at the coastal bank, it is a coastal bank up to the top of the flood zone, elevation 15. In Mark's comments, he said this could be a vernal pool. I can point out that we've done at least 3 other projects adjacent to this area, and it hasn't been considered a vernal pool before. And we actually did the house right next door here at the end of Stonehenge. And I'm sure on one of them, we did 2 on Eric Lawson Lane. I'm sure on at least one of them, I couldn't find the records. It was brought up by a wetland expert that it was not a vernal pool. But I couldn't find that this afternoon. In general, I'd say about the septic system, there are 17 bedrooms now. Through the renovation, that number of bedrooms will be decreased by 3. The one cottage to be removed is the cottage in the back. You can see there's an outline in there. It's existing 2-bedroom cottage. It's about half the size. We're now doubling the size of it as colored on here. It's still a 2-bedroom cottage. It's for the use of the owner of the property. So we're doing that, and there are also a couple small additions on this other building. A little addition here, a little addition there. Walkway through here and out there. The yellow is the B zone on the top of the coastal bank. There are also some additions on the main building, but they're outside the 100 feet from the top of coastal bank. And in the advertisement, that the septic system will be connected to 2 buildings. The septic system is actually just for the one main building. The it has 7 bedrooms and going down to 6 bedrooms. This is a 6-bedroom septic system here, which will replace 2 leaching pits that are one out here by the new cottage and one under there. This one here is within 100 feet of the coastal bank. The cottage has a septic system. It was upgraded sometime in the past in this location, and that septic system is for 2 bedrooms, and it will remain there. The other building has an existing septic system that's passed inspections, and that will remain also. So there's one new system for just the one main building. As part of this proposal, there are some cedar trees next to the cottage. Basically, most of them in the footprint are very close to the new cottage. There's 7 cedar trees and one large, I think it's a Norway maple, will be removed to build the cottage. We're proposing to plant 10 cedar trees. I have them colored on in here. Since the cedar trees that are here being removed, we're planting 9 of them here and 1 other over here. So we're planting 10 for 8 trees being removed. And as part of Mark's comments, since we have 2,000 some square feet of mitigation planting, I think we'll put in 2 more trees. He said we'd have to put in two trees. He likes Tupelo down in the mitigation area down here. The coverage, there's a little bit of the cottage and the deck of the cottage are in the A zone. That will be removed. There'll be some patio built back, so there's a 16 square foot reduction of coverage in the A zone. And other increases in the B zone. For instance, the cottage is 840 square foot of increase, the walkways are 387 square feet, and the two additions on the other building there, about 160 square feet total. But there's 1,415 square feet of increase in impervious surface, basically in the B zone. So that's doubled, you need 2,830 square feet. Have the green colored in down there, it's on the bank. Basically, it will revegetate the entire area, the lawn area. I call it meadow in there. I've been there once when it looked more meadowy, but it looks pretty lawny now. It'll revegetate all of that up to and above the top of the coastal bank. And there is also a natural heritage area in that back area, and all of that natural heritage area will also be revegetated. So that'll be with the native shrubs, 3 feet on center, plus the 2 trees that Mark requested. He noted that the plans show a drainage easement on here. That wasn't put on there to deem that any less of a wetland. It's just a legal thing. There is a drainage easement there, and so I showed that on the plan. So it wasn't for in any way suggesting that it was only there because Route 28A drains into it. Because I know that's been a wetland there since I was about this tall and smaller. Removal of some he said, I don't know if it's Boston or English ivy, but there's some ivy down there. We show it being removed. There's one point that I put on for, it's an area of invasive plants that I showed to be removed, and of course he commented we don't show planting, and I think that was a sort of an idea of what some future work coming back to you, we'd like work back at those invasive plants as part of, in the narrative I talked about a memorial garden and pathways, and we can see some improvement to the site if we can work at taking out these plants, but not approve any removal of those invasive plants at the moment. But we'll be back from time to time, perhaps, to work away at it, because we're not proposing any planting to make up for that removal.
Where is that on the plan? Oh, I got it, I see it. Yeah, I see it.
To the west of where
Yeah.
we're planting.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, so we're not proposing to clear out that area now. But in time, I might come back and work on some plans for more of a pathway work system through there. And as part of, as I said in the narrative, I like to keep this sort of as the planting, that's the planting that's required, 2,830 square feet. As plans progress within the next 3 years, as long as the permit is open, we'd like to probably come back as maybe some landscape plans are developed, maybe back through you or administrative review, just to firm up some plans there. But for now, that's the planting, just straight mitigation planting. So that's the proposal. I'll take your questions.
Okay.
Tom, so, just so I understand, you're putting in a 6-bedroom system.
Yes,
You have an existing 6-bedroom system
for the back building.
for the back, and there's an existing 2-bedroom system.
Yes.
It's a lot of septic systems. Very simple questions. I like that you clarified that that's going to be like strictly mitigation plantings, and any further landscape development will need to come before the staff and/or the commission
Yes.
to make that happen. So thank you for clarifying that. And I just have one little question. What are the proposed walkways made of? Like Is it?
Down there,
No, between, you have the proposed two-bedroom cottage and the proposed six-bedroom, or the renovation of the additional house, and you have proposed walks.
well, we counted them as impervious.
Oh,
For
okay,
mitigation
that's
plan.
what I was getting at. What are they
Yeah.
gonna be made of?
It's at least hard pads, so possibly wheelchair access.
Wheelchair,
because
okay, that's all I wanted to
Some
know.
of the additions we're showing here are ramps,
Okay.
so it's. it
Yeah,
has to be
I
hard
noticed
surface.
that. Okay, and my only other comment, Tom, and I forgot, and I wasn't sure if this was mentioned at the last hearing when I was out of the room, but, have you seen your email?
Yes, and I didn't look to see, I mean, Jack flagged this, and we should have, you're talking about the
BBW
BBW.
data sheet, yes.
And I,
So I didn't get them for either of them, I looked, so,
no, I would have submitted, I'm sure I got them from Jack, but I can.
can you submit them?
Yeah.
And then my lovely emails just puts everyone on notice that the next time they're not submitted with the application, you'll end up coming in here and we'll just send you home, so, anyway, I just wanted to know that. So, if you could submit those for me, on the last two, this one and on the last project, that would be great. Okay? Thank you.
Betsy, you're up.
My turn first?
Yes, it is. Number one.
Okay, Tom, I agree with you, that looks much more like a lawn than a meadow. That's why you have to go out for a site visit. The other thing I'm a little bit concerned with is tree for tree, caliper inch per caliper inch. We're talking 8 trees and 108 caliper inches, and you're planning to put 9 trees back in. Maybe you'd like to suggest a few more trees. And I would, Mark asked you for 2 trees for the mitigation. I would have asked you for 3, because that's almost 3,000 square feet. So I would suggest you think about offering us some more trees.
You can offer what you need.
Would like us to come up with something?
Well, I don't want to do caliper for caliper.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Not on that site, it's too, that site's not conducive for it.
No, and also, but the other thing is, again, those are beautiful cedar trees. Is there any, I mean, you would know much better than I, is there any chance to save any of those?
I would think, so. I mean, some of them, where there's like 4 of them, they're spaced fairly close together. I mean, that's, you know, the
They
roots would be
won't-
too
they're all-
intermingled, and
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly if, I mean, they're not full trees down to the ground. They're not beautiful in that way, but they have a lot of canopy up above. But you know, I don't know if a 12-inch cedar, you know, if you were to cut down the 24 and maybe you could spade out the 12-inch, you know.
yeah. I don't know. Cedar trees seem, at least in my yard, grow awfully slowly. And so, if you could save some, that would be good. And also, I wouldn't, and this, we can condition more trees, and some of those trees can go down in the lawn, in the mitigation, in the A zone.
Yes,
But we can condition that.
but there wouldn't be cedar trees down there, maybe.
No. We can discuss that. And so you're going from 17 bedrooms to 14 bedrooms.
Yes.
And amazing, I have a BVW sheet note here too. But that's already been addressed.
Or it will be.
That's all, thanks, Tom.
Mary?
It's just a really small thing. There's I think it would qualify as a structure that I can't find on the plan. It's right near the hot tub. It's it's almost like a little bus stop, but it's a bench with a roof, and it's back to back with a portable bench that's sitting there. And I don't see it on the plan. The main reason I bring it up is because it seems to be set on, I mean, it seems like a structure, and there's some kind of impervious, I think it's slate under it.
Is it here with these things?
It's
that can be
right,
removed?
it's it's right, you know where all the outdoor furniture's piled up near the hot tub? It's just, you know, it would be right below that, almost touching the hot, you know, well, it's less than 8 feet from the hot tub, I would say.
But is all that gonna be removed?
Well, I'm not sure about this thing
All
I'm
of that
talking
is
about,
gonna-
whether, you know, it qualifies to be on the plan or not. That's my only question.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ron Hoffman. It's a little arboretum type thing.
Yeah.
There's a little bench under it.
Yeah,
And it's almost, the hot tub is leaving, the shed next to it is leaving. There's many flowers on it. Yeah, that's what you're speaking of?
and, yes, and that's leaving also. Is that right?
It can,
Oh,
yes.
I'm just trying to get
Sure.
straight what's happening, what's on the plan,
It's
what
almost
belongs
like-
on the plan, doesn't belong on the plan.
It's almost like lattice.
Yes.
It's just a really pretty place with lots of flowers.
Right.
It's actually quite beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not asking for it to be removed necessarily. I'm asking for it to be put on the
Yeah, I would
plan.
like for it to stay. It's
If
quite beautiful.
it's not a portable, it didn't seem like a portable thing. It seems like it's a structure in place there.
Yeah, Tom can just put it on the plan.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Jamie,
I'm good.
Mike,
I think it's a win-win. The property comes better and the environment is better. I like it. Okay.
Maury.
Morris,
she's not here.
recused herself.
Oh, that's right, sorry. Kristen.
The only thing I would say is Mark's idea of cupolas was great because they'll do really well down by the wetland and they're beautiful in the fall. So I think that's a great.
Yeah.
So, that's it for me.
Courtney.
This is a complicated project because there's so much redevelopment on it, and I think, from my perspective, Tom, you've done a nice job of trying to deal with a lot of difficult issues. And I think what I'm hearing from my fellow board members is that there just needs to be a little tweaking here. I think basically this is a good project.
Yes, Betsy.
I'd make a motion that we close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All the things I heard can be addressed in
You
the
good with
order
that,
of conditions.
Jen?
Basically, wait, let me get this straight in my head. We gotta add some tupelo trees, Tom, correct? We have to add the structure with the flower near the
Trellis.
hot tub and shed. And what else?
That's all I heard.
Submit data sheets,
Data sheets.
And, well, no, I meant on changes to the plan.
changes to the plan.
That was it,
Plant
correct?
tree, well, there's two or perhaps 3 trees in the mitigation.
Yeah.
And the discussion of more cedar
Yeah,
trees.
trying to save some of the existing ones, too.
Or you can have the same number of cedar trees and add a couple more tupelos down in the A zone.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of room up in the top.
I don't think
Yeah,
there is
right.
either.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I mean, it can go down in the A zone.
Yeah. I mean, if you want.
All right, then we'll do, you can close it. We'll make a detailed revised plan.
It was Betsy, and I believe it was Mike.
I'll second it. It's been seconded.
The only, did you get the change on the?
Yes.
Okay, you're all set with that? All right, any other comments, questions from the commission? Hearing none, any comments or questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, let's call for vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Closed.
The only one we need to call for is, 156.
Closed. That's nice.
No Jack yet, right? Okay, next up, continued request for hearings under notice of intent. Bruce and Susan Sheridan, 141 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, Mass. With permission to construct and maintain a 4-foot by 255-foot pier consisting of prefabricated aluminum gangways, 3-foot by 20-foot ramp, an 8-foot by 12-foot float system, install 14 10-inch vinyl-coated piling, and the associated clearing, excavating, and landscaping. Request for a variance on the FWR 10.13 for the, from the performance standards set out in FW 10.16 1D1 for length requirements. Jen?
I'll save any of my comments or questions until after the applicant's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Matt Costa, Cape and Islands Engineering, representing the applicant. Mr. Sheridan is here with me tonight. Also here with us tonight is Attorney Brian Wall, who is also representing Mr. Sheridan. All right, so the project's located at 141 Shorewood Drive, East Falmouth, fronts on Great Pond. It's located in the upper reaches of Great Pond. I submitted some aerial picture, 11 by 17. Gives you a good perspective of where you are in the body of water, so you can help get a gauge on where we are along Shorewood Drive in relation to also other piers. The property slopes from the street down to BVW. Actually, if I back up for a second, there's a fragmented coastal bank identified on the plan. It meets the slope criteria, only does for a certain area, and we located that and shown it. BVW, we did submit our BVW data sheets, in case anybody cares, but BVW was flagged by LEC, located on the plan. And then that abuts a narrow band of salt marsh. This is a very unique site. So we have this narrow band of salt marsh, then we have our typical mean high, mean low water marks. Then we have your typical land of the ocean. And then we have an island of salt marsh that's in front of our site. And with that island, due to the elevation, there's also additional mean low and mean high water marks. If you look at the profile of the pier at the bottom of the plan, I showed you all of the resource areas there and where each portion of the pier is located within those resource areas. The site has an existing dwelling, existing garage, deck, steps, things of that nature. The site also has remnants of an existing pier that had an interim approval license. Those interim approval licenses expire after property transfer. 1 year after property transfer is titled. So that license actually expired in August, but it did exist at the time the Sheridans purchased the property. And I actually identify on the plan where the remnants of the pier are. And then if you look closely, you'll see a little call out, says outline of internal license number 9656 with dash line. That's the dashed area, the footprint of that actual license. There is an existing path that leads down to the water to that pier. The path right now is maintained. It traverses over the coastal bank through the BVW. The BVW is infested with Phragmites, and there's actually a clear tunnel down to the water. Everywhere to the north and to the south of that path is naturally vegetated. The proposed pier is 255 feet in total length, so that means from tip to tip. The fixed pier itself is 231 feet. Then we have a ramp and we have a float. So when you add those all up, it's 255 feet. The key distances here, and I noted them on the plan under project statistics, you'll see length from landward mean high water to end of float That's 202 feet. So, under the regulations, we have to count our lengths from the most landward mean high water mark. Same deal with the salt marsh, the most landward edge of the salt marsh. So I identified those lengths. It's 202 feet from mean high water and 196 feet from mean low water. We also identified the total length that the pier spans of the salt marsh, because there's little pieces of salt marsh, that's not all salt marsh. And that's actually 57 feet in total that we span over the salt marsh. So what we're proposing is an innovative style. It's not your typical style of pier. And what it is aluminum gangways, starting out with a 30-foot span, then we go to 40-foot spans. So we're doing this to reduce the total number of piles. We only have 14 piles needed for this entire structure, with only 4 of those piles being located in the salt marsh area. So each section gets set on these piles, and then we attach the typical ramp and typical float to it. The aluminum gangway style we have done before, a couple of doors down from this property. We learned in that experience that that much aluminum is very shiny when it's new. So what we're going to do on this project is we're actually going to powder coat these gangways. It's going to be a kind of a tan color. I identified the RGB, which is a red, green, blue color coding on the plan in my pier notes, so that the color would be consistent. That RGB color code is not going to mean anything to you, so I'm going to give you an example. And again, I refer you to note number 6 on my pier notes. It identifies the type of color that we're proposing to use there. The pier will also have your typical water and electrical services installed underneath, running out to the ends. We did perform a shellfish study that was included in our narrative. It was performed by Stantec, and we did it in accordance with the required methodology under the FWI regulations. The result was it didn't exceed any of the thresholds. The proposed dock does not conform to 2 length requirements. And I listed that in a table on the plan, requested FWR 10.0 variances. Brian's actually going to speak to the variance criteria, and he can briefly outline that for you. We did articulate that in the narrative, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight, but he'll just give you a brief overview, and then we can answer any questions that you may have. That about does it for my part of the presentation. I think I will hand it over to Brian at this point. Oh, there was one last thing I forgot, and this was one to submit. We are submitting letters of support from 8 of the 10 abutters that were on the certified abutters list. So I'm going to submit this for the record.
Good evening. Through the chair, my name is Brian Wall. I'm an attorney with an office in Sandwich, and I represent the applicants along with Matt Costa, Mr. and Mrs. Sheridan. As Matt described to you, this particular proposed dock exceeds the length requirements of the regulations, and hence we are asking for a variance under section 10.13. That section allows a variance. It has a threshold requirement that the applicant show a hardship, and then once the hardship is demonstrated, there are 5 criteria that have to be met, and I'd like to talk about them briefly. First of all, under your definition section, hardship is defined as meaning that due to the unique characteristics of the property, the application of the regulations is unduly oppressive, arbitrary, or confiscatory, and would involve a substantial economic loss. It also requires that the hardship not be the responsibility of the applicant. In this particular instance, the applicant bought the property with a properly licensed dock, but the dock is old, dilapidated, and does not meet current regulations. It is the applicant's inability to comply with the length requirement that is the direct result of the unique example of topography that Matt Costa went through, which is essentially the offshore island of salt marsh. The proposed dock meets all regulatory requirements but for length, and it does not meet the length requirement because of the unique characteristics of the shoreline. A literal enforcement of the length requirement would deny the applicant the ability to replace the dock, and we submit to you that this would be oppressive and arbitrary because of the unusual shoreline configuration, which again necessitates the longer dock design. Once we have demonstrated hardship, the criteria become the following. 1, the project does not meet a performance standard. Obviously, it does not meet the length requirements. Criteria 2, the mitigation measures are proposed that will allow the project to be conditioned so as to contribute to the protection of the resource areas. In this particular case, we're submitting to you that the design itself is mitigation. We are not proposing a typical timber pile design dock, but instead the aluminum gangways that Mr. Costa described to you, which reduces the number of piles to less than that would be required by a conforming 100-foot pier. Secondly, the applicant is proposing a Phragmites eradication condition, which would result in the eradication of Phragmites from a 2,500 square foot area shown on the plan. We would submit to you that this will rid that area of a non-native invasive species and allow it to revert to its natural state, which will enhance habitat value, salt marsh, water quality, and fisheries. In addition, the applicant is proposing to provide funds to the shellfish department for shellfish seed. The third criteria is that the project will not create a nuisance. And that means that the project will not result in potential harm to private property or resource areas. Although the dock is longer than 100 feet, it does not extend into the navigable channel and will have no adverse impacts on navigation or recreational use of the channel. The dock is similar in design and size to the 2 nearby docks that Mr. Costa mentioned in his presentation, and those 2 docks have been there for approximately 10 years and have not resulted in any nuisance to any of the neighbors. And in this case, the dock will be powder coated, as Mr. Costa again described, to make it more aesthetically pleasing and cut down on the glare. The fourth criteria somewhat incorporates the hardship requirement that it not be created by the applicant, and again, the condition here is a natural existing condition that was not created by the Sheridans. The fifth and final criteria is that the resource areas will be better protected with the project than without, or you provide an overriding public benefit. In this particular instance, we are submitting to the Commission that the mitigation proposed, namely the Phragmites eradication and the funding of the shellfish seed, will result in better protection to the resource areas and enhanced resource areas as conditions of the project, which obviously wouldn't occur if the project did not go forward. So hence our argument is the environment would be better off with the project than without. I also want to mention to the board that Mr. Costa and I were both part of the permitting of the 2 docks that are to the north of this particular project that are shown on the aerials that also traverse this unique environmental condition. Both of those docks are longer than 100 feet. Both of those docks were granted by the Commission in 2005 under variances. And in both cases, the Commission found that the unusual shoreline condition, namely the island that's offshore, was a unique situation to this particular part of town, that it was a rare and unusual condition, and that literal application of the length requirement to the property owners landward of this island would be oppressive and arbitrary. In both cases, those other owners proposed mitigation of Phragmites eradication and funding of shellfish seeding. And in both cases, the commission found that this would result in improvement to the resource areas. And the commission also found that the proposed design, namely the aluminum gangways, would result in less environmental impacts than a typical timber pile design, and that this contributed to the protection of the resource areas. The Sheridans have the same shoreline condition that the other two property owners have had, and they are submitting a proposal that is essentially the same as those two other proposals. And we would respectfully submit that in addition to having demonstrated hardship and the 5 criteria set forth in section 10.13 of your regulations, this application could be approved for the same reasons that the commission approved the other two proposals. I meant to send this ahead of time. I know that Jen likes all documents filed before. I neglected to do it because I was busy, but these are the actual copies of those 2 permits. So Jen, I have an original for the record for you, copies for the board members. Again, it's the 2 dock applications on the NOIs and so on. That's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Jen?
Couple of questions, I'm not quite sure who's gonna be able to answer it. Who's doing your Phragmites work?
We haven't selected a contractor yet, but we outlined the methodology in the narrative. And it's either gonna be cut and drip or bloody glove.
It'd have to be somebody approved by you.
Yeah, then we're gonna have to have approval over who does the work.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Mark about this in detail.
Yeah, the work will have to be done prior to the dock going in?
Yep.
Okay. Talk to me about the interim license. Because what differs from this project, from your other 2, is that the other 2 were substantially larger docks. One was 190 feet, 95 feet, right, so 195, and you replaced it with a 200, and the other one was 112 feet, and you replaced it with a 165. So there were really big structures out there that you were replacing. Talk to me about this little structure that's out there. It's got its interim license, was it ever permitted by this board? Because interim licenses can go either way with DEP, so do you have any documentation that this little tiny structure ever came before the board?
Well, I believe the criteria when they had that interim approval period was that you did have to submit some sort of evidence that it was a legally permitted structure from the commission, whether that was an order of conditions or a certificate of compliance.
For the licenses or for the interim licenses?
For the interim license, you couldn't just say, hey, we're gonna have a dock here. You had to submit more information. What they allowed you to do was to draw your own plans. You didn't need engineered plans. But we can go back and look to see what was there, but that.
I would check with DEP on their records to see what was submitted in support of their interim application.
Sure, sure.
I mean, just, because that's the only, I mean, that's kind of a big difference between the 2.
Yeah, so and to that point, this little area probably was deeper many years ago, where they have this little dock.
Mm-hmm.
In the other areas, the only real usable water was on the other side of the marsh island. So that might be some of the reason for the configuration.
Possibly, yep. Brian, I'm gonna, by way of the harbor master, respectfully disagree with your statement that you're not impacting navigation, because according to the harbor master, the project is.
Well, I talked to Greg about that, and he said his comments are gonna be typical of piers.
Yep.
In that it will have an impact on navigation.
Yep.
Because somebody kayaking by will have to go around it. But he did also say that it was similar in kind to.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
the other piers in the
navigationally
area.
issued,
And
yes.
I think what really tells the great story, and I showed Jen the photograph ahead of time, is the aerials that we presented.
Yeah.
And it shows you point blank how that compares to where it's located within the waterway itself, how far from shore, and then how that compares to other structures. And we're essentially following the contour line of that island. So the pier to our north is actually a little bit further into the channel than us, but the island starts to fall back towards shore, so we pull that in a little bit. So they're all in the same club.
When we went out there, there was some, when did your clients acquire the property?
Fall of 2014. Mark did tell me about some issues relating
Yeah.
to the RDA for the septic system that was
Yeah.
done by the prior owners. And I need to sit down with him and go over what trees he has concerns with, and we can add that to this application and clean it up.
It's not just that, it's a whole, like, looks like a burn barrel or some odd little barrel thing that's out there now in an area that looks recently disturbed and not done with the septic. And so you'll have to probably speak with him regarding that area as well, because we'll probably want that revegetated. Okay, and that's fine. Is there any way, and I know you and I have talked about this, if the commission requires of reducing the length of that dock?
So
Talk to us about that.
there is a way, but it is a considerable risk to the applicant to do this, because what we would have to do is we would have to violate sideline setbacks that are under 310 CMR 9 for Chapter 91 and the Army Corps standard of keeping your structure 25 feet away off of the projected property line. You see our structure is situated approximately 26 feet from that projected property line. We could shorten things up if we pushed it closer to the property line, because the shoreline falls back towards shore. But then we run the risk of violating these other criteria, and that could pose problems later on. So we have proposed a structure that meets all of the applicable regulations to the maximum extent feasible. That's what's proposed right now. Yes, we could shorten it up, but we're going to violate other setbacks later on, which I believe is a substantial risk to the applicant moving forward.
Can he clarify that? What other setbacks? If you brought it straight back? No, if you brought straight back, if you made it 10 feet less, 15 feet less shorter.
Water depth.
Yeah, but there's a 3.1, 3.3.
If you drew a line.
If you have a float, you need 3 feet of water below the lowest portion of the float.
So it has to be like in 3.1 feet.
Yeah.
Well, actually, to the south, it's 4.4, it's deeper.
But we're going to get closer to this property line by doing that. See, our 25 feet.
Matt, you said you had a butters,
It's here.
signatures supporting the project?
He gave them to the record.
Is one of them the property owner directly to the?
No.
Through the chair, could I answer Ms. Gladfelter's question?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Wall.
So, Ms. Gladfelter, under Chapter 91, there are some regulations that try to balance the interests of the public to navigate with the right of the property owner on the water to use the waterfront, the littoral rights. And so even though property lines don't extend out below low water mark, what Chapter 91 does is it kind of puts out imaginary lines.
Oh, I know that.
Okay, well, that's the setback, that there's a regulation that says that the structure has to be can't be within 25 feet of the side.
I was suggesting that you just move it back like this, not.
Can't, you
Oh,
don't have the water
sorry,
depth.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Chapter 91
Yeah.
setbacks. Okay.
You don't have the water depth to do that?
Yes, we're right at, so we need the 3 feet under all
Okay.
parts of the flow. And we are right at it. Believe me, this is not a cheap pier per foot cost, so we don't want to spend any more than we need to.
I have one more question. When did you say your clients purchased the property?
The exact date I'll have to get, but it is fall of 2014, I believe.
Fall of 2014 or fall of
No,
2000?
14, yeah.
Of 14. When was the interim license transferred?
It transfers with the property, but the interim licenses have conditions in them that they expire a year after transfer. So what they wanted you to do was they were gonna okay you as a property owner to have that pier, but if you sold it, they wanted you to go for Chapter 91. So they bought the property, they hired us to start preparing applications for Chapter 91. Well, for a pier, we got a little ways to go.
So that
before we
interim,
get
what I'm asking is that interim license is expired?
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
that. It's
okay, yeah.
part of the
All right,
narrative.
yeah, okay. I was just trying to clarify. Okay, that's it. We'll probably have to, if the board approves the project, we'll have to have final approval of the person doing the Phragmites work. We're gonna have to look at the plan and address some of the vegetation removal concerns on the property and that the staff has, and the board can decide whether or not you wanna grant the variance.
Courtney,
I'll pass for the time being.
Kristen,
Well, I think that idea to get rid of the aluminum color is a great idea. I like that.
That was a big problem with the last two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know,
They
it's
stand out.
reflection, it's awful. The harbor master report, I don't, the comment that says the 3-foot contour line is not identified on the plan, and if possible, I recommend the dock be reduced in length. Did
He
you
was
say
saying the
that?
same thing Betsy was.
Okay.
Is there room to pull it back and to
Okay.
shorten it?
The harbor master is well aware of the staff's the requirement that the staff requires 3-foot water depth.
Okay.
What the nuance between that is you're usually dealing with fixed piers. This is a pier ramp and float. What your regulations say is there has to be 3 feet of water below the lowest portion of the float. So in the case of a ramp and float, it needs to actually be in even deeper water to satisfy that requirement. And so I think Greg just,
Okay.
that was just lost.
The only other thing, the navigation, is there any way that it could be navigated below the dock, or, you know, you're going out so far?
You can paddle under?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so they're saying it's impacting navigation, that's because larger
'Cause-
boats.
A cautious person would probably paddle around the end of it rather than paddle under it.
And as far as the Phragmites, that's a great idea. Would that be ongoing because they come back, or, you know?
I think that we could work with something like that. Typically, the way it's written in the narrative now is that it's over a three-year period. So it takes several years to knock them out. And we were going to run that 3-year period. But it is a benefit if we would be agreeable to a condition ongoing.
That's what I mean.
Lori.
Matt, in the narrative for the Phragmites removal, in one section you do say you're gonna spray, so I just wanna make sure that.
You are so sharp. That is the one little piece. Actually, Bruce, the applicant, noticed it too.
Yeah.
We're not spraying.
Okay.
If you read the sections
did.
2 above it.
Right,
Yeah.
but it was like it's at the last breath of the Phragmites, you're gonna spray it. So I just wanna make sure that it doesn't get to that. The other thing, I did read Chuck's comments that this area Chuck Martinson is a shellfish warden in the town, a constable, I'm sorry. This area historically and currently supports both soft shell clams and quahogs. So I do want to, I know when people say that the water quality isn't good and it's not an area for people to shellfish in, other things eat shellfish besides humans. And so it is a viable food source for other things besides us. So that, I take that into consideration when I make my decision. And the other question I have, on lot number 35, and I don't know the house number because it just says lot 35, it's 2 doors down to the north. That dock is really close to the lot line. Did they get a variance, or, and I can see why they did it. What they did is they got close to their northern property line so that they weren't crossing as much of the marsh. And if you went more to the south of your property line, you would not be crossing as much as the marsh. So, and the water is actually deeper to your south.
I understand completely. In that case, if I remember correctly, we were putting the pier more or less where the pier was before. And that was for the Rocco 124, which is the closest to us. And that was a while ago, so I don't remember all the details, but I do remember their existing pier there, and we put it basically running it through those 2 salt marshes there. In this case now, you know, we have that standard now that we are supposed to meet, and we deal with DEP in Chapter 91 often on this, and it's just something that they look at harder these days than they used to. The one way that we could do it is if the abutter agreed, or essentially wrote a letter of consent saying they would allow us to come closer to that property line. So I think that would be the only way that we would feel comfortable moving forward, is if we did, if that abutter did allow us to move closer to that projected property line. That would help us shorten the pier up, definitely. But otherwise, I think we need to follow all of the requirements.
For the Chapter 91 regulations.
Yeah,
The
and
other-
Army Corps. I mean, Army Corps wants to
right.
see it too.
And the other thing too, we used to encourage shared docks so that everybody didn't have a dock. They were called community docks, and they were so that, and it wasn't so that people in the upland could use the dock. And you had, 30 people in the neighborhood using your dock, and that was now a community dock. And we have in our regs, I think, still, Jen, for community docks, meaning that the people on both sides, especially the one to the north. Common dock, thank you. The one to the north, the direct abutter, I mean, you can see how much salt marsh they would have to go over if they applied for a dock. And I just, if the neighbor to the south would be willing, I think it might be something to pursue.
The neighbor to the south does have their own dock.
Yes, I know, I'm saying the one to the north.
Oh, to the north?
The north doesn't have one.
Correct.
But anyway, that's just something, if you're gonna ask the neighbor to the south, maybe for that, less than 25-foot setback, it would help an awful lot. Thank you.
Mike?
The increased span of the owner, does it put more load on the pile?
Well, more load compared to what? The piles will definitely be able to handle it.
The piles need to be deeper.
Not necessarily, no. They're going to be driven to 15 feet for refusal, which is
Same
typical.
kind of construction equipment.
There will be a crane to set the gangways. But other than that, it will be, the piles don't need any special treatment, and we don't need to use any special methodologies for installing piles.
I'm leery of the free lunch. I think you've answered me. Okay, no other questions?
Don't be leery.
I remember these docks well. I also remember the first time I went to the other side of the pond after they were built and looked back, and I went, no wonder people are complaining about the shiny aluminum. So I'm glad you incorporated that.
We learned.
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Mary?
I don't have any questions either.
Jamie?
I just note that Chuck also commented that the shellfish propagation is not terribly appealing to him.
Well, he was
But-
talking about soft shell.
Soft shell,
Which,
Doesn't
I
need
don't know
to-
how we got on that
Doesn't need to be.
topic, but we're proposing to donate to their program, and they use it at their discretion.
Yeah.
We're not saying you have to go soft shell.
Okay, that's all, that's,
Jamie?
Two questions. The barge, I'm sorry, the crane to drive the piles will be done by barge or on?
The piles will be driven from a barge, typical drop hammer setup. Then there'll be a crane to set the gangways that will be from shore, but they're relatively
Be
light.
protection for fuel spills, what have you. And just for my own understanding, that chapter 91 25-foot setback, is that not also so docks aren't crammed together?
It's to protect people's rights to access the waterway. So it's to protect that shoreline access rights. You could extrapolate that to say, yeah, not to jam things together, but it was, to create comfortable buffers when possible. That was the key, when possible.
It was also intended to, as I understand it, to prevent conflicts out in the watershed with the terminus of the docks, so that people can come in with their boats and dock without conflicting with other docks nearby. So.
You all said, Jim?
Thank you.
You get something else?
Well, that's just that question.
The lateral access?
Yeah, do you show lateral access?
We're gonna be high enough above mean high water. We have we exceed the 5 foot threshold,
Okay.
so they'll be able to walk on it.
Okay.
Courtney?
Just a quick question on the aluminum, your powder coating, which is aesthetic, but also as a preservative. What is your guesstimate for, given that environment, and what salt does to aluminum, what the life expectancy is?
Something that would far outlast everybody in this room and then some. I don't have a finite.
That's a relative question.
Yeah, a long time. Is that good?
All set, Court? Yeah. Okay, what's your pleasure?
Well, we have to
We have to
address the vegetation removal.
So you'd like a continuance?
If need be, we'll definitely continue. If you want a condition, is working it out with Mark and submitting a revised plan, we can do that
I
too.
want to see what Jen has to, what she feels
Yeah,
about
no, I
it.
think that would be a good idea. Also, you may want to start looking at contracting someone to do the Phragmites work.
We got it all worked out.
Okay,
I'll go over it with you.
okay. So you haven't finalized someone yet, but you have someone in mind, is what you're
Yeah,
telling me?
we
Okay.
have options A, B, and C, so
Okay,
whatever's necessary.
we'll review option A, B, and C with you. It's gonna have to be March 2nd. That's the next available date.
That's okay.
Is that okay?
At the request of the applicant, I move to continue this to March 2nd.
Second.
We got Betsy and Mary. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Hearing none. Any comments or questions from the public? Let's go. You gotta come forward, okay? Thank you.
My name is Kyle Coaches, and I am the owner of the property at 145 Shorewood Drive, which is directly abutting the property.
Could you, one more time for the, record your name, please?
Kyle Coaches.
Thank you.
I directly abut the property at 145 Shorewood Drive, and my only issue, of course, I would love him to have a dock, but aesthetically, these docks are such an eyesore, and I know this would be right in my vision every single day. I know the one that they're referring to a couple doors down, and whenever I kayak by it, it's just so ugly. So aesthetically is my issue with the dock. And also, there's a lot of, I don't know how this would affect the, there's a lot of wildlife as far as swans and ducks and geese, and I don't know if that would affect any of the nature of where they nest by virtue of the dock through the marsh. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So to clarify, that's our butter to the south.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm hearing none, so we'll call for the vote on the continuance to March 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. See you on March 2nd, Matt. Okay, next up is 43 Sipawissa Road. I'd like to move this
We're tabling it.
table to, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Second, okay. So a motion to table, Betsy and Maureen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved. Okay. Next up is Mary Alice Carroll, 23 Zell Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove the existing driveway, relocate and reconfigure the new driveway, shift the house footprint, grade modifications, and changes to egress stairs. And we'll have to hold on, Jen. Yes, Betsy?
I would like to say who the quorum
Quorum
is,
is?
because it's not all of us. Courtney, Mike, Betsy, Mary, Jamie. Okay?
Say it again, Ben.
Courtney, Mike, and then this end of the table, Betsy, Mary,
There's the old
Jamie.
one if you want.
Thank you.
No?
I'm not,
It's there, yeah.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Homes and McGrath. We're the engineers and land surveyors representing the applicant. The project before us is an amendment to an existing order of condition. The order was issued back in November of 2015. We're essentially keeping the proposed house the same it was approved, but what the owner realized is that there were 12 stairs to get up to the front of the house and 13 stairs on the side of the house. So they changed the proposed topography by providing 2.5 foot of fill adjacent to the house on this side and on this side to reduce the number of steps to the house. In doing that, they lose the existing driveway, circular driveway that was here. So what they're doing, they're proposing this driveway on this side. All of this area, it's outside of the Zone 8 and Zone B for the buffer plantings. The reduction in the steps slightly reduces the overall structure proposed. And those are the revisions that we're proposing for this amendment. No other changes are proposed other than the removal of the existing driveway. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Raul, so are you shifting it? Are you shifting the house at all? Did I miss that?
No, the house doesn't move from what was proposed and conditioned under the order. It's just these stairs
Are going away?
are shorter. They're not completely
Yeah.
going away.
The
And this
pave-
one's here.
Yep, the
And then
pavers
the
are going
driveway.
away. You're proposing this circular driveway configuration, and you're not touching anything on Westminster Street.
There is the intentions of changing that because,
But
but
it's
because
not
of,
under this application.
correct, because
Okay,
of
we don't need to
ownership,
talk
it's
about
not in this application.
Yep, we don't need to talk about it then. Okay. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Betsy?
I have no questions.
Mary?
No questions.
Jamie?
Wow. The obvious question to me is, you've got an existing septic system, is that H20 compatible?
It is, they're chambers.
Chamber. You just said the house isn't moving. But you say here it's a minor shift in the house footprint, is that just the stairs that you're?
The shift on the footprint is because the stairs is considered part of the structure, and it in itself.
Shifting the footprint of the house, yeah.
Mike?
The driveway, the circuit, to the west. Impervious, impervious?
Pervious, we're
Says
proposing crushed shells.
Less lawn.
Yeah.
Right, it's taking area that's currently lawn.
I think I understand all the questions.
Maury?
I'm not on the quorum.
Oops, sorry. Court?
When the original septic system was put in, before you proposed this move, where was the reserve area?
I actually don't know.
Well, I guess, so my question is, what are the regulations if, does this change, get into the reserve area that was originally approved, and how do you deal with that? Maybe that's not a relevant question, but it's one that I'm concerned about.
The proposed changes in this amendment do not change any particularity on the septic system or the reserve. I do see that there is potential area for reserve, still within the parking complying with the setbacks that are required. The setbacks in this particular case, because everything is in the flood zone, it's slab on grades, so there's not the 20-foot setback that will typically be required. But there's area that will suffice for a reserve. Should the system also fail, there's also those instances where you can rebuild in the same location as long as you remove.
Redo.
Right.
Okay.
I'm actually on the quorum.
Mr. Chairman, Maury's on the quorum. This was never opened. It was continued without opening.
Oh, it's an amendment.
It's an amendment. It was continued without opening it because the butter notifications were never sent out.
We're all back, okay.
So I actually now have one question. On the pretty colored one you just gave us, and then the one we had in our packet, one shows the reserve, the approximate location of existing septic leaching field. And it's very long, and it's going north to south, or south to north along the property line. And now you're showing it, are those the chambers under the circular drive now?
Have you since?
In the prior plans
Yeah.
that we have submitted for the record, there was an as-built of the septic system, and it was depicted as this little area.
Mm-hmm.
But further research showed the actual dimensions that were installed, which is all this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the correction on this plan.
Your
Okay.
colored plan is dated November 18th, 2015. Our site plan is updated 12/14/15.
And it's got a different septic on it.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, is this was the older plan.
But he just made his little fingers going along up and down
The
line
opposite,
again.
didn't he?
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
This is corrected, isn't it? This is the correct.
The long one is the correct one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it needs a new date on it.
It needs a
probably.
new date.
It needs, yeah.
It's,
It
Wait a
needs the
minute.
12/14.
It says 11/18.
it says 11/18.
Which,
That's-
stop, everybody
okay.
stop for 1 second while I clarify something. Raul,
Yeah.
is it the
Oh, okay,
long,
sorry.
Mary, please,
It appears to be
is
a
it the
different
long
section
one?
here.
Which one is correct?
The long one.
The long one. Then this plan has to be corrected because this plan shows chambers. Correct?
Yes, it does.
Plan of the record is revised 11/18.
No.
No,
We have
yours
it
is
up
12/14 revision.
12/14.
On the pretty colored picture you just gave
It
us.
says 12/14, and it has not a long skinny, short fat. This one has
Which you
short
just said the
fat.
chambers.
And you just told Jamie the chambers were the H20 load, not the long skinny one. Aren't you glad Maury's on the quorum?
I started.
Yeah.
The long skinny one is the correct one. This is based on the last. We'll have to submit the corrected plan for the record, but it is this septic system located.
And is that long skinny one and H20 low, which goes back to Jamie's question about whether or not putting the driveway on top of it is a very smart idea.
Yeah, they're
Yes,
they're
it is.
H20 flow diffusers.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. So we'll need an updated site plan on this.
Can we trust Raul to give us that?
Well, and
Well,
Raul,
right now, I don't
Yeah.
know. Usually I'd say yes, but
and
Hey,
Raul, you're
Lori's
only,
still got the floor here.
yeah, well, you're only showing on your second sheet, sheet 2 of 2, you're only showing the 2000 H20 tank, and you're not showing that they're, they're flow diffusers.
Because they were.
Right, because the existing leaching field, it's existing and we're not doing any changes to it.
Yeah?
So we're keeping it the same. So we're not proposing
Okay.
changes to it. That's why we don't show details of it. What we're doing is we're proposing a new septic tank because the shifting of the house
yeah.
takes a
To get your
space.
setback, I understand that, okay,
all right,
thank you.
submit me a new plan, Ralph, with the new, whichever correct, with the correct outline. If it's this one, just leave it. If it's this one, submit me a new plan.
We'll confirm the right
Thank you.
septic and right plans for the submission.
Thank you.
Courtney,
Would it be possible to submit a copy of the original septic plan for this
The
house?
as-built.
With the as-built, as part of your submittal, since you gotta give us I know the town has those records, where they are, I don't know.
In the Board of Health.
But it would just be helpful, then it removes any possible doubt in anybody's mind, including yours, as to where things are.
We'll be happy to agree to
Yeah.
provide
We're not trying to make your life difficult, it's just that this is for everybody's safety in reality.
So revised plan with corrected thing and submit septic as built.
Yeah, I mean, originally when
As-built.
this was built, they had to submit an application
With an as-built.
first with a plan and
Yeah,
then
yeah, I
with
get
an
it,
as-built.
I got it.
That's what we need.
is that clear?
Yep.
Oh, can you explain to me, I just, out of curiosity, why the driveway through the lot like this from one street to another?
This is all one ownership. I don't know if you all remember the original design when this house was further out to the water.
So he
Then it was
wasn't- remember,
continued.
He wasn't on the quorum.
There was a driveway here with a turnaround. There's 2 column piers here.
Yeah.
And there was this circular driveway.
Mhm.
The turning out made it too difficult to make the exit through the columns. So what we decided to do is go through the carport, and this is all one property, by the way, through the carport and connect the 2 driveways back here. Makes it easier than having to back out and trying to squeeze between the 2 column piers that are here.
Well, I remember seeing the columns, I mean, those columns can't be moved at all, huh?
This is what was approved in the order of conditions,
Yeah.
and there was that turnaround, and you have to just fit between the columns. They want to keep the columns.
Right, I can understand that, they're nice looking, but to me, it's a lot.
It's a huge parking area.
Yeah, it is, I mean, are we gonna have vehicles parked around the circle and?
It's not proposed as,
Again, I know it's kinda out of the purview of the.
it is not proposed for parking, but it does allow for a better turning to get out of the site.
Okay, I understand, but so we still go the other way, okay.
I know.
All right, purview service. Okay, anything, well, what's the commission's pleasure?
So do you trust Raul?
They get to stay.
Yes, I trust Raul.
Okay, I make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments from the commission? Any other comments from the public?
This is contingent on submitting the information.
It'll be conditioned, Courtney.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Ma'am?
Yeah. I don't know if this is gonna help you at all, but this is a plan that I got downstairs, I think, with the septic.
You have to go identify yourself.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Minnie Gregory, I'm in a butter, I am the abutter to the west of the property. I just have submitted that in question. My living there, watching him put that septic system in, the leaching field does not go. They did not dig up this area down here. It was all this here, because I live right here.
I wonder if that plan depicts.
And that plan, I think, that I just handed in and showed you, I think that's
The
changed.
plan, the big plan that he submitted shows it the way you show it. It's not long and skinny, it's short and fat.
That's not,
The one she just gave you?
The one she
No.
just
Yes.
gave us looks like this.
So that is the septic system.
Yeah.
I mean,
See, I was wondering if
she
that.
was talking about it going this way, I think, but.
but
Oh,
isn't,
I just looked at it.
Hang on,
Can we have it back?
but
Guys.
the whole, the leaching
hang on
field
just a
goes
second,
from
hang on,
here
hang
to
on,
here
hang
on
on.
this map.
Okay, first of all, everybody needs.
Ma'am, just hang on a second. Would you come over here just a second, and we'll show you on the other
Oh,
plan?
it is the same.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
the
That was
same.
the same.
Yeah.
You
That's
think
what
I
we're
made that
talking
up?
No, I didn't.
Okay, that's, that plan, that's not the plan I got as an abutter.
This is this area here?
Was it more like this?
It was like this.
Yeah.
with
I
a
know,
long
and that's
leaching
Right.
incorrect.
It's,
Okay, that's, I just was giving this to you as.
Yes, we
Right.
appreciate that.
Right.
This will help
Right.
Raoul, it'll be
I'm
less for
thinking
him to
that
have to correct.
Okay, yes.
That's showing a reserve area.
All right, I'm sorry.
No,
Probably
that's,
proposed.
Hang on, hang on, we have too many people talking here. What's up, Courtney?
Well, she's still got the floor.
Yes.
on that question.
Please, thank you.
I have a question about the large cedar tree that was in mitigation planning when the cottage guest house was built. Where it's located on the new plan, it's like 3 feet from the new septic tank.
You were talking about the one they were gonna spade and pull up, is that what you're?
Yeah,
Yeah, tree with the
there's
frequent
one, it's
fire alarm.
about
Yeah.
25 to 30 feet high. It's a big tree.
And it's being moved, proposed here?
I don't say proposed there.
Jen, you had it marked on one earlier.
I don't have anything. There were
But that
three
was in the
cedars
other, order of conditions, Jen?
I think it
Yeah, because I don't see it near the tank
For the
now.
I don't see it marked either.
it's marked on the, there's a stake in the ground.
Yeah. But that was the original orders?
Yes.
Yeah, because yeah, the writing was faded on that quite a bit, so.
Well, Betsy, pull
I
the
am.
original thing. Pull the original plan.
Well, that's what she's saying. She's saying it's too close to the septic tank.
I don't know what setback is, but I guess if it were mine, I'm not sure I want a tree right next to the septic tank. I don't know.
Well, we can't have mitigation within 10 feet of the house.
No, they'll have to put the tree somewhere else.
Yeah.
But they're
Like
gonna
how one
have
out
to
front.
dig a huge
The
hole
water side.
to move this tree.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big root ball.
And it can't be within 10 feet of the house, because then it's not classified as mitigation. So it pretty much has to go
In the big lawn area.
in the big lawn area.
If I can answer that question. the order of condition, the plan that was approved was the one that was revised 10/28/15. Shows the existing tree that's here,
Yeah.
moving over to this location. The proposed tank is over here. And under the order of condition, special condition number 1, I'm sorry, special condition number 5 says that the applicant shall relocate the eastern red cedar that was required on the prior order of condition. So we still show it here. It is not labeled the same as seen before, but this is the location where it's moving. We're not changing it from before. Before, we had 2 symbols there of trees, but those were not representing the existing red cedar that's to be moved. This is the one that's being relocated.
Guess what, Raoul? That red cedar's going on the plan too. If you have to
It's
revise.
on the plan. It's on the plan.
Oh, okay.
Probably just needs to be labeled.
It probably just
I
needs
think
to be.
we were
labeled.
just confused, there was confusion about
Okay.
whether it was that tree or one of those, yeah.
Do you see that now, ma'am?
This tree.
So where's the tree gonna go?
So is the stake in the wrong place? Right here.
I think the stakes.
Is it that simple?
So it's 5
It could be that there's stakes for all 3.
They might have stakes for the other two, but the big one is being moved between the 2 houses.
There aren't 2 trees there.
Not yet.
No, there's, one big one is being moved between the 2 houses, and then there are
It's
2
already
others.
between the 2 houses.
Yes, but it's not being moved very far,
Okay,
is
I
my
guess-
recollection.
Yeah, this stake that's in the ground, that says new, what does it say, Lou? It says new location or something?
It says location of
It's
cedar.
within 2.5 feet of a stake that says something about the septic tank.
Well, they're not gonna be able to physically put the tree 2 feet away from the septic tank. The root ball is just gonna be too big. So in the field, there may be some slight adjustment to where that tree goes, and that's gonna have to be determined in the field. Yeah, that's just the way it's gonna have to be, because they can't put the tree right on top of the tank. That root ball is gonna be about as big as this table.
And my other question on a tree is the huge maple tree that exists in the existing deck, which is going to be demolished.
The problem, no, that would be on the existing order of
That
conditions,
would
so
be
I think
under the
we're
existing
outside of this application, which we got going tonight.
I don't believe they were gonna mitigate for that maple. I think it was, the conversation just,
I think they're hoping to keep it.
Yeah.
I thought the one inside the deck, yeah, I thought they were gonna keep that.
Yeah, you're gonna work
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, that's,
That's what I remember.
It doesn't,
It's gonna stay.
if it doesn't survive, they'll have to replant a new tree. And I think that was made very clear at the hearing.
Courtney, you had something else?
Yeah, I know we're trying to expedite these things and move them along and not going through continuation after continuation. But, there's some uncertainties here that I'm not comfortable with. I can't vote to close it, because I think we should get things firmly established. And then, and this may only take a short time, but I just think we need things firmly established before we go ahead and close it and vote.
And that would be where the septic system is.
Where the septic system is and all of and
Courtney, we
by
just-
the way, we can deal with these imprecisions as well.
We just got the as-built for the septic, correct?
From the
Yes.
abutter, yes.
And that shows the location of the septic. Bear with me.
Oh,
Courtney, shush. Bear
Easy
with
now,
me.
easy now.
It shows the location of the septic in the location on the 12/14/15 plan or the 11/18/15 plan.
12,
14, 15.
That's what I was trying to get at. So the revised plan that they submitted for this amendment has the correct location of the septic system, which is these little chamber things. They satisfy Jamie's on the H20 load. The cedar tree in the field, that's gonna be a field decision, because if the stake's right next to the tank, they can't physically put the tree there. So we're gonna have to revise the location of the tree, and the only other issue I heard raised right now was an issue that was discussed at the original hearing on the maple and the, in the,
Right now.
yeah, and they're gonna save the maple, and if it's not safe, they're gonna have to replace it. So, can somebody pass down the as-built of the septic to Court? Now, Courtney, here, look at this plan, look at your 1214 plan, and see if it matches.
That plan is not the plan that is sent with a letter to the abutters.
What was that date of that plan then?
This whole packet came in December. This is what was sent out by Holmes and McGrath, which is why I questioned. You want to see it?
Yes, please.
And those aren't chambers. That's the long.
No, they sent you the wrong plan. They did not send you an updated plan with their abutter notification letter.
This is the as-built.
Well, what's the ramifications of that?
Is this the as-built, or is this the
That-
plan for the?
That was
Original
submitted by the abutter, that came from the health department.
Says the as-built.
This is the actual, the offsets that are shown are actually as they are on the ground. That's what I'm trying to understand, because I know when we build septic systems, you can draw a plan up, and the reason for an as-built is that things can be off by 2 or 3 feet or more. And then you have the offsets to the physical structure or whatever known points. So my question is, I'm looking at a thing that says site plan. And I've submitted as-bills that are just little pieces of paper say as-built.
Okay.
It's not an
So
as-built.
this is not an as-built in my view.
It is
Okay,
not.
then we'll need it, and we'll need a continuance for Raoul to send the correct plan to the abutters, the as-built to be submitted, and the location of the tree on the plan to have some note that it's gonna have to be determined in the field.
Do you understand what I'm getting
No,
at?
I understand what you're getting at, Court.
Yeah, it does.
So, the plan that you just looked at, that she showed you,
It
what
actually,
was wrong, what was wrong?
I
with
didn't look at
and
it.
I haven't looked at it yet.
the-
Oh, it's
But-
the wrong date, it says 11/18/15 and not
So it was just a
12/14.
date issue? The plan the same, or was it
No,
different?
this one, it's this one.
That is,
This is the as-built.
that is an
Okay.
as-built.
Can every, can,
That's not the as-built.
Yeah,
It is.
It is.
This is the as-built.
Yes, it does.
somebody give Mr. Chairman a gavel, please? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the plan that was submitted to the abutters is dated 11/18/15, and it shows it shows a different location for the proposed septic. The plan you guys got with the amended is dated 12/14/15 and shows a location of a septic that matches this, which is now you're having a discussion of whether or not that document submitted by the abutter is the as-built for the original septic. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes?
Go ahead, Betsy.
We know, I'm trying to kind of move things along.
Yeah.
We know where the septic system is now.
Yeah.
Even if it were either place, it's H20,
Yeah.
and the
Doesn't matter.
driveway can go over it. So I'm in favor of closing it and moving on.
Agreed. Okay, well, that was your motion anyway, right?
Yes.
So, ma'am, are you all set?
Okay, just one more question.
Sure.
I know it's getting late. How many cubic yards of fill are gonna be put on this? Do they have to determine that? There's a lot.
What are your cut and fill kicks rule?
That would have
Cut
been
and
in
fill
the
calcs?
first-
Right,
That would have been in the first hearing.
yeah.
It's not.
Didn't he say he was putting
There was
two?
no grading ever discussed in the first hearing. Because that's when they had the great big tall stairs.
Oh, for this is to change the
Yeah,
stairs.
that's the modification to the footprint. He said at his onset, they were bringing in fill, correct?
How much?
All right. The proposed changes for this amendment are the fill on this side and this side, the driveway changes. We're not changing anything with the structure other than shortening the stairs. The fill in this area and in this area is about 200 cubic yards.
Do you understand?
Now, the changes to this amendment on the plans, or the request amendment, do not interfere with the septic system, no matter how it is on the field. We can confirm and submit the actual layout of the septic system, however it is. One of the conditions under the order of conditions is that the existing location of the septic system.
Be determined prior to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's already addressed in the original order of condition. This amendment does not change that particularity of that part of the project. The proposed driveway that we're doing will have no bearing in the difference of the septic.
Except they have to verify it's H20, it'll handle the load.
H20,
And that was-
I was informed it was flow diffuser, which are H20 precast structures.
Just to say it back.
That is the leaching field.
Where, about the heavy construction, where are the trucks going in? They're gonna be going over the existing septic system.
But if it's H20 loading, it's permitted. That's what those are all. They'll handle that load.
But I think she's probably also concerned, you got 11.9 on the corner of that house. The, what's the width to get in the other driveway from, what is that, Westminster? Or, yeah.
Which for cars would be adequate, for construction vehicles, probably primarily off Bell Street, I would think. Is that fair to say?
For construction, they actually have what exists today, which is 2 entrances. To demolish the house, start building. After everything is all said and done, then the resident will just have this.
No big truck is gonna get between those two pillars.
Okay.
No, but currently there is a loop. And once the construction is on the property,
Yeah.
they'll do activities throughout the area because the entire house comes down. The house occupies all of this. Once in the property, the trucks have enough room to maneuver and access the site.
Okay.
But you can't, that circular driveway in the front, when you come out, you can't get around the hedge because you'd be going on, see where the edge of Westminster is? You're going onto the, a butter on the other side, on the south side's property.
Lady Fair LLC.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there are big boulders down there now because they don't want you driving up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess worst comes to worst, one of those pillars is gonna have to come down. Because, I mean, the width of a large excavator is what, Raoul? I mean, you get 11.9 on the corner of that house. You see what I'm saying? The one that goes out to Zell Street, you get 11.9 there.
Yeah, for construction, I don't anticipate this being the access. I do believe it's going to be through this side.
I said that backwards.
I don't know if they'll have to take down one of the pillars and rebuild it afterwards. But if that's the case, then that's what they'll have to do. But the access that I can anticipate, I'm not going to be the one building the house, but I can only think of this main access.
Wait a minute, weren't we told at that last hearing that access was gonna be around?
We approved the house here.
Say that again?
Didn't we say that construction access was coming in the other way?
No, I did, I got the roads mixed up.
Okay, so it's coming in,
I'm thinking,
Westminster.
for construction, they're not really gonna come in Zell Street. I mean, you'd come in the other road.
You're gonna have to take edge
See.
down.
Okay.
That's what makes me uncomfortable.
Well,
Sorry?
They'll have to take the part of the edge down to get in there.
Yeah, but even if they take it down temporarily, I mean,
Right.
for construction purposes, I mean, I look at it from my perspective, I'd wanna do it from that one road and just have that the construction entrance and do all the damage there, if you will, and then fix it later, as opposed to 2 places.
Right. I just had one quick question
All
through
right,
you.
I'm gonna move this along.
The 200 cubic yards of
Hang up
fill,
on this.
Raoul, is primarily just for the stair, and I just want to make sure that there, however this is designed, that there is no runoff into another lot. Because it sounds like it's kind of you're raising it up 2 feet.
Right, the fill is here, this side and
Where's the
this
fill?
side.
I'm sorry.
The shed of the water is coming from High Point, which is the carport, going this way and going that way. The edging of the proposed crushed shells is gonna be cobble.
Yeah.
So the cobble is gonna keep most of the runoff within the shells. Whatever dust sheds off is gonna follow the grades down from 11.5 to 9, from 11.5 to
That's a lot.
8, and
In the existing
and
grades
10s.
at 10, in one place, and, you know, down here by the stone pillars, and right at the carport is at 10. So it's a 1.5 foot difference.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the driveway's gonna be up high, and then all that, you know, I'm just, you're gonna be putting a big mound of dirt over the septic system with the driveway that's now gonna be sort of a dome, am I right? Or sort of shedding off toward the Louise Valley Realty Trust.
this area of the fill is lawn, being replaced with lawn, so the runoff from that particular area will be practically negligible. The runoff from the driveway itself is gonna shed down to the road.
Okay, because you have your 10-foot contour on the north of the property, up, you know, on that side by the existing dwelling guest house. The guest house is at 10.9, and then you're putting fill in at 10. So you know, there's not much room in there for, anyway, it just can't run off. It's a state, it's a town bylaw that you can't, runoff can't go on somebody else's lot, so if it does, I'm sure your neighbors will inform you.
The 10.9 is the finished floor of that cottage. The grades outside are much lower. We're proposing a 10 here, but the grades out here are in the 9s, are much lower than the 10.9.
What do you mean by much lower?
Much lower, yeah.
Yeah.
You have no room.
The finished grade of the house is, say, 11, 10.9.
Yeah.
The grades outside of that house, of that cottage, are less than that finished floor.
Well, I would hope so.
So we're proposing a 10 here, shedding down to 9s.
I don't see 9 anywhere, but that's okay. I don't see a spot elevation on my plan that says 9. You keep saying 9, but I don't see it, so. Where is it? You point it with your pen so I can follow your pen on my
We don't have a
plan?
spot shot of 9.
Okay.
I'm just saying, the grades here are below that 10.9, and we're grading down towards it.
That's what my concern is this is what you're doing, is you're grading, you're building a land, you know, a
Can't
mass.
dump it out on somebody
You can't
else's
dump it on other people's property. And you only have 11 feet 9 inches. Like, basically just say 10 feet, or, I mean, by the time you get done with cobble edges and whatever. So 10 feet is like half the length of this table to your property line, that you've just put 200 cubic yards of fill in to bring the elevation up. So, the fill's all, the contour changes are all right here. There's a contour change here. This whole thing's all contoured right here. This is all fill. I don't know. I
don't know.
I don't care. I wanna go home.
Yeah.
No, you do care.
The
Just-
grading goes up to 11.2 by the deck on the east side. From a contour.
What, do you know the
She
grade?
never got the plans, so that's half the problem.
Okay.
Raul, next time, make sure you guys send the correct plan to your abutters, please.
I'm not sure exactly which plan was sent to her. We have to
The
understand that
1118 one.
we have to understand that there was plans sent for Board of Appeals. There was plans sent for conservation. I don't know which one that one is. But there's a series of revisions that went through this project. So I don't know at which time that revision come to be.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Courtney has a question. Raul, I have a question.
All right.
I don't want to be a dog with a bone,
Okay,
but,
let's
you
move it
know,
along, Court. I wanna
the-
get this
the
thing. We
problem
got a
is-
motion and a second on the floor, so go ahead.
the problem that I have with this right now is that the more this gets discussed, the more questions are raised. And Raul raised a red flag when he says, oh, well, we'll determine the location of the septic exactly in the field when we get into it. And that's certainly appropriate, except when the tolerances are such that if you approve a house in the location you have, and you do some probes in the septic, and all of a sudden that septic system encroaches on that 10-foot thing, there's a problem. And that's information, and now Maury's raised the issue about the grades. I'd rather have that stuff resolved. I'd rather continue it, even if it's a pain in the neck for you. We didn't bring in facts that weren't clear. That wasn't our issue. So as far as I'm concerned, this should be continued till you come in with something that's clear, has all the what-ifs taken care of. If you have to go out and put physical probes in the ground and locate that septic, then that's what you've got to do. And so you know for certain, when you walk in there and we write an approval order for this, that you can put the building in there where it's shown, you can make the grades work and all of that. I don't think that's unreasonable. And it's a hell of a lot cleaner than us taking plans after the fact and trying to put them on and put orders and conditions in there that no one can figure out.
Okay.
I do want to answer to that.
I'm voting against
Go ahead, Bill.
closing this thing now.
The location of the septic system came to be in the original notice of intent presentations. We did go to the site with a probe, like we usually do when we do septic system inspections. We probed on the ground and we couldn't define the location of the septic system.
That's all I'm asking you to do.
We go to the ground, to the site again with the same probes, we'll find the same thing. We're driving a probe 2.5 feet, 3 feet down, and we can't feel the change in texture to crushed stone, which is what indicates crushed stone being part of the septic system. Now the house, as shown here, the footprint of the house is not being amended by this application tonight. What was approved under the other condition, which is already in place, allows for the house to go there. They could start that work, and that changes nothing from this amendment. This amendment is for the driveway and the fill that we're proposing. The septic system, the location is where it is. The construction of this house with the current permit, as conditioned, they have to find out that they don't interfere with it. This amendment will make no change to that.
I don't want to go back and forth anymore on this. We got a motion and a second on the table. Did you make the motion, Betsy?
Close the hearing and take it under
Who
advisement.
made the second?
I did.
Mary? Okay. Any other comments from the public? Comments from the commission? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
No.
Did you get that, Mary?
Susan.
Susan.
I'm sorry.
Susan.
Mary got it.
Mary
That's
got it.
Susan did too.
6 yes?
Yep.
One no.
Okay, the count of vote is 6-1. The hearing is closed.
You're still here. You still got one more before I'm letting you go. Actually, you got two more before I'm letting you go. Yeah.
Okay, next up is, what's that? The as-built? No, that has to be part of the record. Yeah, once it's brought in on the table.
That's okay.
Okay. All right, next up is Penzance Point Nominee Trust, 153 Penzance Road, Woods Hole, Mass. This has already been read into the record.
Ma'am, come tomorrow, we'll make a copy of it for you and give it back to you, okay? We'll make a copy of it and give you the original back. Not a problem.
Raul again.
Lucky Raoul.
Back to whom?
Could you look at the, I don't think I'm in the quorum for this. I'm not supposed to be.
Mary, you are not on the quorum for this one.
Jamie, Betsy, Russ. Mike, Maury, Kristen, Courtney.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant. With us tonight is also Katrine from Wilkinson Ecological. If there's eventually any questions, but this hearing was continued from a few weeks ago. There was some request to be submitted for the record. There was also a request to revise the plan to show the Falmouth velocity 25-foot offset. That plan was revised and submitted. Among the revised documents, there was fill volume calculations that were requested. We submitted that calculation. It's approximately 1,033 cubic yards of fill that is being brought in. There was a request to submit a transect through the proposed project.
That was you, Courtney.
We submitted that transect. It's a graphic that shows the plan view on the top side. On the bottom half, it shows the transect showing the proposed work and in relation to the existing. There was also elevation plans requested. We submitted there was an existing condition photograph of the front of that building that was submitted to represent the existing elevation on the front. And there was proposed building elevations that was submitted as requested. There was also a architectural cross-section through the proposed house, and that was also submitted. And also, at one time I was at the town, and there was a request that it will help the board if I submit construction sequence. We got this from the builder for the project, and don't have many of them, but I'll pass along some and one for the record.
You good? It's okay. You keep on. I'm good.
The sequence as listed by the builder: establish site erosion control and sedimentation control, prep the house for demo and protection, remove the two wings, the sun porch and the garage, excavate for the footing and foundation walls at new location, lift the main structure and move it to its new location, complete foundation work, remove the old foundation, pour the new foundation, and drop the house into its new foundation, build the rear patio and the two wings on the proposed work. We understand that this project is all to comply with flood zone regulations. We're shifting the house from the close proximity to the wetlands. We're lifting the house to get it above the floodplains. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Jen?
Raul, did you submit the LOMA, or have you guys not received that yet?
We have not received it yet.
The LOMA, letter of map revision from FEMA.
All caps.
And when, I'm gonna ask again, when do you anticipate receiving that?
The information I got from Leslie Fields, who's
Yeah.
part of the consultant group,
Yep.
she doesn't expect to hear for another at least 6 weeks, a month to 6 weeks, is what she says.
Okay. You've made all the changes. It's a good project. The landscape design is a great design. The problem the staff has and the concern the staff has is right now, as designed, it does not meet the regulations because you do not have a 2-foot separation of your first floor between the first floor and the base flood elevation. You're asking this board, the applicant chose to come into the hearing without having all the information present, and asks this board to make a determination and to not comply with their regulations because you're anticipating the letter of map revision. And it's a great project, but staff has a concern.
We like Raoul, we trust him sometimes, but we don't trust him this much.
The staff does have a concern.
You get the message?
The applicant chose to come before this board without having all your ducks in a row. And that was the chance the applicant took. Your letter of map revision could come in a month and 6 weeks and say, we absolutely agree with Woods Hole Group, this is what the flood elevation is gonna be. You can come in here, we'll close it, done. But that was a choice of the applicant and the project team to present to this board without having a finalized decision from FEMA. And right now, as it stands, this project does not comply with the regulations, and the board needs to determine whether or not they want the letter of map revision from FEMA, or if the presentation by Woods Hole Group overcame the presumption enough that they could go forward. That's what's before you. Other than that, all the information that you requested has been submitted.
Jamie?
I kind of agree with that statement. It looks great, everything's here, but the what if? What's the likelihood, nobody can say, right? That would be accepted. Is there any history to say that that's?
Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not.
I mean, there's a good track record on Woods Hole Group's side that they do secure letters and map revisions, but I don't know how FEMA's reacting now that they changed the flood maps, so it's kind of it's up to the board.
Oh, Mary's out of it. Betsy?
I mean, it
Well,
can.
you heard what I had to say. I think Raoul should be thinking about when he wants a continuance.
Mike? Oh, I'm sorry. Mike, you want to comment?
It seems to me you could condition it upon getting the letter. I don't see a problem with that, with Square and everything else. Now, the question I have is,
At their risk?
why, at their risk?
At their risk.
Because what if they're denied?
It just
If
puts,
that's
you
the law.
know, and I'm gonna just say that it puts this board in a very difficult position. Because now you're tasked with conditioning it, you're tasked with watching out for the building permit, you're tasked with this, when in reality, the applicant should have had all this information in a nice, neat little packet prior to submitting it to you.
Can I stay with Raul's question? Why is it important for us to approve it now rather than 6 weeks from now?
Well, they want to be able to start work as soon as possible, and part of the work that they want is the mitigation and the invasive removal. And the intention is to go first once they get an order of condition, try to take care of as much of the planting plan that's being presented and ask for approval, and then go for the building. Once the building is up, it will be very limited, or once the building starts construction, it will be very limited to start some of the planting mitigation work. So the phasing of this will be to take care as much as possible behind the site and leave the main construction part of it once we get the LOMAR approval.
Okay, now I am staying with that thought process, but the problem is you went through it, so you meet the existing or the height requirements. If that LOMA doesn't come through, and I don't know how to say this, but boy, you're in tough shape. That house it can't go up, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right,
And if you come back and ask us to say, is it okay to violate our height restrictions, because now FEMA has said we agree with what we did, not what we proposed, you're going to get no sympathy from this commission. I'm just telling you right out. None, change the house.
Right, the height part of it, there's gonna be a hearing tomorrow night for zoning board of appeals, and that's gonna be for a variance, because no matter what we do to comply with the flood zone regulations, the overall height will not meet town regulations. That's
Yeah.
why it will be before Board of Appeals for a variance on height.
Anyway,
Regardless.
Can you
And
do
that
that?
height is also determined by the proposed finished floor grades that we're proposing, which is also being carried on by the anticipated LOMAR approval. So all these permits are counting on that LOMAR.
Well, then why did you come to
come
all these boards prior to getting the LOMA? Because you've put not only this board in a position, now you've put the Board of Appeals into a difficult position. I'm not blaming you, Raul, it's just an overall question. You were one of 6 people on a project team that chose to come before this board without all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed over a planting schedule. We've seen you guys argue before us that you can start planting schedules in January, February, March, April, May, I can go on throughout the year. So telling me it's about a planting schedule and invasive removal,
They're gonna come in with an NOI just for that.
yes.
The intention of the project is to get the permits conditioned on that LOMAR.
No.
But once the permit is approved, then we have at least a permit to start some of the work, mitigation and restoration plans.
Then you should have come in with the mitigation and restoration plans as a separate
Separate
notice and
notice.
then come in with the house.
It's
That,
been
I
a lot
mean,
clearer.
that's, it would have been a lot cleaner, I mean,
Yeah.
and I mean, like I said, it's a great project, the landscape design is fabulous, it's a good project, but you put this board in a difficult position, and that's something I'm not comfortable with. I'm sorry.
Maura, you have any comments?
Yeah, I have 2 comments. One is, the zoning board of appeals issue is gonna come up, and I know it's not our board, but you are supposed to have all your permits, well, you're supposed to apply for them. And I am concerned because with the ZBA also, they're gonna be waiting for the LOMAR. And with this being it's a new, not a new thing, but this is a huge increase in height to the town regulation of 35 feet to, what, almost 48 feet or whatever. It's huge. So, I'm gonna ditto Betsy, I'm not gonna, beat this horse anymore, I'm waiting for the LOMA, and that's that.
Kristen?
I have no comment.
And it is a good project.
Courtney?
I'm going along with Betsy. I
You
think you guys are gonna be thinking about when you're gonna get it continued.
If we're asking for a continuance, it's pending on the LOMAR, it's hard to define.
You
Can
said,
you do
wait,
6
we're at the
weeks out?
3rd, you said a month to 6 weeks?
Give them a month,
I'm
and
not
then
gonna
he
be here
can
March
continue
20
if it
to the 20,
hasn't
after
come
the,
yet.
the 8th to the 21st, I'm gone.
We got March 16th, March 23rd, I mean, we have any time in March. We're meeting every week in March. You guys are gonna love each other by the end of March.
We're meeting every week this month, too.
Yeah.
We already love each other. It's
Yeah.
obvious from today's meeting.
So, I mean, 6 weeks out, Raul, you're looking at, 1, 2, 3, the March 16th, that's 6 weeks out. A month out is March 2nd. If you want to do March 2nd, and hope for the best, and if you don't have it, kick it out another week or 2. It's really up to you. I mean, if you think a month, then I would go with March 2nd, and then if we have to continue it because you don't have the LOMA, then we'll do it. And I mean, all we need is that LOMA, and then we could close it and issue.
Bob, did you have something to say? You represent the applicant, right?
Thank you. I'm Bob Ament, I'm the attorney for the applicant. Raul is a lot more familiar with the conservation aspect of this project and the process that's already occurred here. I'm representing the applicant before the Board of Appeals, and our hearing is scheduled for tomorrow night. I have a high degree of confidence because of the facts of this case, the unique situation involving the topography of this lot versus the lots on each side of it, that a variance will be granted by the Board of Appeals. This project's been described as a great project. It isn't any less of a great project if the federal government doesn't issue the LOMA. The Board of Appeals doesn't have a problem needing the LOMA because we're dealing with Falmouth V-zone, which is a Conservation Commission issue. The design of this house conforms to the present regulations, it's my understanding, for zoning purposes, not for conservation, because of the Falmouth 25-foot extension, and I believe only because of that. And I think that this board can find, based on all the work that went into the preparation of the LOMA by some of the best people in the world, the Woods Hole Group, that the presumption of the importance of that 25-foot additional flood zone has been overcome, particularly in light of the many benefits of this project and the necessity of moving this house to the proposed location to safeguard this house, which is a significant historic structure. So I would ask you, if the LOMA doesn't get approved by the government, we think it will be, from what we've been told, but if it doesn't, then what are you going to do? And we would hope at that point you would decide that this is, as you've said, a great project, that we've overcome the presumption, regardless of what the federal government does, so that we can do the right thing with this property. Now, if you go along with all that I've said, I don't see why you wouldn't issue a decision. I think you can issue a decision without it being contingent on the LOMA, because if we don't get the LOMA, we'll ask you to do that, and we think that you should. But I guess we could make it contingent on the LOMA and have to come back to you. Of course, if the LOMA is issued, the required height of this building is going to go down by 2 feet. We'll tell that to the Board of Appeals. We think we'd get a variance without the LOMA. If we get the LOMA, we won't have to build it so high. So I can count. I certainly can see that, at least before I spoke, the votes weren't there to go forward with this project. But I hope you take into account what I've had to say. Yes, we know we need to overcome a presumption. I think we've done it. If you don't agree, we'll have to have an extension. We don't want you to turn
With all due respect, Bob, you know, we require people to come in with all their ducks in a row. You know what I mean? You need this, you need that, you need the DEP numbers, this, that, and the other thing. I'm not comfortable moving ahead on this either, you know, and...
Well, thank you for hearing me.
No problem, no problem. Go ahead, Betsy.
If your clients do have to come back, if you don't get a LOMAR, you're not gonna meet performance standards, which means you're gonna have to come back with a new application asking for a variance.
I believe that we've done all of that. Didn't we do all of that? Our application is not based on the LOMA being granted. Our application discusses overcoming the presumption of the significance of the flood zone. Basically, as you know, our position was that with the detailed studies done by the Woods Hole Group, we've better defined the limits of the velocity zone, and that 25-foot extension is unnecessary. I know that the staff and the commission may not agree with that position, but that's what we've said, and we think we overcome that presumption.
Okay.
That's
All
not
right.
the staff
You're
position
welcome.
said.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, do we have a motion to continue? Is that what it was, to?
March 5th?
We haven't had a motion.
No,
No, I'll make a
okay.
motion to continue to March
Second?
So it was second.
Was it second,
Fourth?
Jen?
4
Second.
weeks.
Second.
Second.
Second is
Second.
4 weeks.
And I second that.
Okay, you got that, Susan? Okay. So we have a motion by Betsy, second by Maury. Any other comments or questions by the commission? Hearing none. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Abstentions, unanimous, so moved.
We go back to
All right, I saw Jack. in
Shorewood.
the
No, you're
room
not
here.
leaving yet.
Courtney, you got
Courtney,
one
you
more,
got
don't
one
even
more.
think about
Yeah.
leaving.
All right, I'm gonna call, just have a 2-minute recess. Sorry, Jen. 2-minute recess.
Better start getting these meetings.